All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Placer County Board of Supervisors meeting Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. We will begin with a flag salute led by Supervisor Euler, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you, everyone. I'm just going to read a brief statement and want you all to know that it's important for Placer County to conduct our business to ensure essential services for our citizens. We're doing everything we can to facilitate residents staying at home and social distancing. We encourage the public to engage in the process. With that in mind, our public comment for this meeting will be offered through a completely remote call-in process. Citizens who wish to comment should be prepared to use our call-in line, which is area code 530-886-1800, and that line should be online on the internet on the county's website. Please call in at the time I open for public comment for the specific item you would like to address. Your call will be queued through our county operator and transferred into the board chambers to be heard in the order in which the calls are received. If you receive a busy signal, please try to call back. Please call back on the same number to be connected for comment. Please be aware that there is a 30-second delay between our meeting proceedings in the chamber and your viewing at home. So we request your patience so that we can ensure that each citizen who wishes to comment has the opportunity to do so. So right now, we are going to move to the consent calendar, the consent agenda. If there's anybody in the public who would like to withdraw an item from the consent agenda, you can call that number now, which is 1-530-886-1800. And with that, I understand that we have one item that's been pulled from the consent agenda, which is item 16A. And
Chair Gore, members of the board, we received an email from Cheryl Berkema, and I'll read it into the record. I ask that 16A be removed from the March 24th, 2020 agenda. Consent items are supposed to be non-controversial. The item is non-essential during a pandemic. The public has not had time to review the information and will not be able to attend. The item provides statements of fact without any factual information. The PCCP has not yet been adopted. In lieu information has been requested by the public but not been provided. Once this is pulled off, I will be happy to address the item and then leave it up to the board as to whether they wish to remove it from the agenda. I would point out that the clerk has reached out to Ms. Bergama and she will not be appearing by phone today.
Great, thank you. Are there any other items from the board members that you'd like to remove from the consent agenda? Is there? No?
Well, I'm tempted, but I'll just get the backstory later.
Okay.
On number 4, 14A4.
Yeah, 14A4.
Well, we're waiting for a moment to see if anybody from the public wants to pull any other items as well. Okay. So nothing else from board members, and we'll give it a few moments to see if anybody else calls in. Like I said, we have to be patient because we've got about a 30-second delay. So we'll wait a few moments. Probably need a stopwatch or something for at least 30 seconds. That would be a good idea. That way we're not missing people inadvertently. And then as we wait for that, we're going to move up board member and county executive reports prior to public comment. Okay. Just so you guys are aware of that. That way we can hear reports about county items and then take public comment after we have some updates from the public health officer and our treasurer. Okay, it looks like no items from the public have been pulled for the consent agenda, so with that, we'll take a motion. Motion by Holmes, second by Wygant. Roll call, please.
Wygant?
Yes.
Holmes? Yes. Euler? Gustafson? Aye. Gore?
Aye. Thank you. And let's address item 16A.
Chair Gore, members of the board, 16A is an amendment to the voluntary interim in lieu fee program. As the board may recall, in December of 2018, the board considered the adoption of this voluntary interim in lieu fee program. That was approved. It has been in place ever since. The amendments that are coming forward are more of a clarification based on subsequent discussions with the agencies related to the amount of the fee. Originally, the in lieu fee program had 150% inclusion to the fee because we weren't quite certain what the fee would be. That has been resolved now. So what you have before you are simple amendments to the interim in lieu fee program, and is not a redo of the program at all. For that reason, on behalf of CEDRA staff, we do recommend approval of this item. The question, of course, remains, you have a member of the public who's asked that this be removed from this agenda with no idea as to when it would be brought back, because this has been fully vetted during a prior public hearing in 2018. It would be my opinion, now putting on my county council hat, that that opportunity for the public to discuss this matter has happened, but it really is up to your board as to whether you wish to pull it and continue it to a different date.
Great. Thank you, Karen. Any comments from board members?
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve item 16A from Supervisor Euler, second from Supervisor Wygant. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move to board member and county executive reports. What we'd like to do first is we've got some reports from our treasurer, then we'll have an update from county operations, and then we'll have an update from our public health officer. So we'll start with our treasurer, Janine Windenhausen. She'll be joining us by phone.
Hi, Janine. You're live with the board. Can you hear us?
No, I cannot. I have to turn on my speaker. You're ready for me?
We're ready for you.
Okay, I'm sorry due to the confusion due to the delay. So good morning. I am Janine Windenhausen, Placer County Treasurer Tax Collector, and I want to thank the board for the opportunity for allowing me to speak today about the property tax delinquency date of April 10th as it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic. I know that everyone is being impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, and I want to let you and the public know that we are well aware of it, and we care about the people and the businesses and the communities of Placer County, and that tax collectors across the state are working hard to balance the interest of individual taxpayers, community needs for essential services during this emergency, as well as state and national impacts. Most importantly, I want everyone to know that the Placer County Tax Collector's Office and tax collectors across the state have a long history of working with taxpayers in times of emergency and disaster, including the recent public safety power shutoffs, wildfires, and floods. As a result, it is known that the best way to provide relief is to provide penalty waivers to taxpayers who have been directly impacted by loss of wages, jobs, health, and other circumstances. Since taxpayers impacted from COVID-19 pandemic are best helped through the penalty waiver process, the California Association of County Treasurers and Tax Collectors is hopeful that the legislature will soon consider emergency legislation that our association has developed to provide greater leniency for granting penalty waivers related to COVID-19 to homeowners and small businesses. Tax collectors can waive penalties based on individual circumstances. Defining those circumstances ahead of time does not make sense. There are just too many circumstances, and as the COVID-19 pandemic evolves, circumstances will continue to change. So to allow us the flexibility to consider those circumstances to best help taxpayers is the best scenario. I know it may not make anyone feel any better about the April 10th delinquency date, but here's why it's important to maintain the April 10th delinquency date. Tax collectors know the state and federal income tax deadlines have been moved, and we hope that that brings relief to those directly impacted, as well as broader economic impact to the state, economic relief to the state and nation. The state and federal government have been able to provide income tax relief because most income tax revenues have already been collected on a per paycheck basis. In addition, state and federal governments have far greater resources than local government agencies, including the ability to print money and provide other forms of economic stability and relief through monetary policies and other tools. In Placer County, property taxes go to over 90 different local government agencies to pay for many government services such as police, fire, sheriff, schools, cemeteries. Your board is aware of the letter sent recently by CSAC, the League of Cities, the County Tax Collectors Association, and other local government agencies as to how important it is to maintain essential services, and that there may be additional cost ramifications of responding to COVID-19 that are as yet unknown. State laws prohibit the county tax collectors from changing the deadline on the amount due. And since we're collecting taxes from multiple agencies such as cities, schools, fire districts, and cemetery districts, and other special districts, tax collector does not have the authority to unilaterally reduce revenues to local governments. Proposition 13, enacted into law by a statewide vote, specifies the amount to be collected for general fund revenues to local agencies. Other charges on the property tax bill have been approved by voter and land owners. Therefore, the only way to change the amount is for voters to overturn the amounts due on property tax bills. Voter and property owner approved bonds issued to build schools and to provide public infrastructure, such as those from assessment districts, Melrose districts, and general obligation bonds, are repaid from charges on the property tax bill. If charges for bond debt service are not collected timely and in the amount necessary to pay bond debt service, municipal bonds may begin to default. Widespread default on California local government bonds has the potential to create additional economic shock on a national scale. These defaults can further impact mutual funds, pension funds, and other investment savings which have already experienced considerable loss. I know we've had our fair share of economic distress as well, including the housing crisis, Great Recession, and related financial meltdown, dot-com boom and bust, savings and loan collapse. These types of things are not new to tax collectors. We know and understand that these are challenging and unprecedented times, and we hope that those who are fortunate enough to be in a financial position to readily pay their property taxes will do so as they always have. For those who have experienced wage reductions, layoffs, illness, or even death of a loved one, the Tax Collector's Office is here to assist you. And as the COVID-19 pandemic is fluid and evolving, taxpayers should continue to check the Tax Collector's website for updates and information. Thank you again for letting me address this, and I can turn on my microphone to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Janine. We appreciate the update. Any questions from board members? Supervisor Wygant.
Janine, excuse me, this is Robert. A question that I just trying to put myself in a position of being of concern as per what you just discussed. And so I remember prior conversations in other circumstances, but let's say, for example, I've had a perfect property tax paying record for many years, but I'm in a different financial circumstance now, and I choose, because of my cash flow management, to not pay my property taxes on April 15th. how long would it take before, I know there's a fairly lengthy process by which the county goes forward to resolve all that, and at the end of the day, the property taxes have to be paid. But if it's a interim cash flow management question, could you give me a feel for what the time frame is involved where somebody could recoup and end up paying their taxes and their penalties? But I think it's some years out, correct?
Janine, were you able to hear Robert?
That's right. We do have a delay of about 30 seconds.
You should be hearing him live.
Oh, you should be hearing live.
That's my concern. Janine, are you there?
I'm sorry, I muted to eliminate the feedback problem, and so I heard most of his question, but I did not hear the very last part. If someone had a perfect payment record and they chose not to pay, I'm not sure, I didn't follow it after that.
Okay, so more simply, let's say my property taxes are current, and for cash flow interim management purposes, I'm having to set aside, defer certain payments, and I choose my property taxes as one of those. Isn't there a fairly lengthy time frame in the process by which I could recoup and end up paying my property taxes before there's any serious repercussions to that decision? I'd be able to buy some time, I believe, but I'd like you to talk about that.
So I will explain the normal tax collection process if someone does not pay their property taxes. What happens is that the property owner will start receiving from the tax collector a series of reminder notices. They'll receive a reminder notice shortly after the delinquency date, and a notice will appear on all subsequent property tax bills, and it is until the 5th year of delinquency. So from the date of the fiscal year in which the delinquency occurred, June 30th, until 5 years lapse, the tax collector is prevented from forcing collections, that is, selling a property for default. In the meantime, the tax collector will send notices. Under state law, the tax collector has until the 7th year of delinquency, at which time they must have offered the property for sale. If a disaster is declared, then that time frame holds from the time of the disaster declaration. So it could create a more extended timeline. It cannot, in any event, shorten the timeline.
Thank you. That exactly was my question. Yeah, and I think for residents, citizens, taxpayers, it sure appears that there will be from Washington compelling relief program put in place, and I know some of it is targeted towards business owners who will have working capital disruptions regardless of what happens going forward. But if I were a business owner today, I would be thinking about all of those kinds of things going down to the future and how I'm going to best manage my resources under the circumstances. So thanks, Jeannie. That was very helpful.
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons that we have put together a legislative proposal that we hope the legislature will soon consider, that will provide greater leniency for homeowners and small businesses as it specifically relates to COVID-19.
Thank you, Janine. Supervisor Gustafson has a question for you as well.
Well, I wanted to thank you, Janine. You've been very prompt in responding to so many of my constituents that have asked this question. I think the bit of education we need to constantly remind people of is how important these property taxes are to benefiting all the special districts, and that, in fact, the county collects them but retains far less than what we give away to all the special districts, schools, first responders, fire districts, all of those. And I really appreciate the promptness during all of this melee that we're experiencing, that you've responded to these concerns for folks. I also found it interesting that in one of your responses, you anticipate having close to 90% of these taxes paid by April 10th due to the mechanisms already in place through mortgage holders and those who have prepaid. So I think that's important for our residents to know, and that you are willing to work with people on a case-by-case basis to get through this time. And I think that's so critical to everybody who is, are very, and rightly so, extremely concerned about their abilities to pay. That most have already paid, and that we'll be able to get through this on a case-by-case basis. Thank you.
Great, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you very much, Janine. We appreciate the update, and we'll let you go, and we will move on to our update from our CEO, Todd Leopold, about county operations during this time.
All right. Good morning, Board. So I wanted to give a quick update. I'll briefly talk through a couple key areas that we're doing here, and kind of what the process and the kind of strategy has been up to this point. Regarding kind of meetings, county business, we're continuing to do that. However, we have postponed municipal advisory committee meetings for the time being while we work on the social distancing directives that have kind of been outlaid by our public health officer. We also have a number of other boards and commission meetings that have either been postponed, or we have pushed out some of their key items, specifically ones that may have some public comment that we recognize individuals want to come and talk at those board meetings. So as this evolves, we're going to continue to work with our planning commission and some of our other key boards and commissions to ensure that they're moving forward once we're back up and running. We have made some modifications, and as of today, you're seeing this regarding the Brown Act. The governor has provided some leniency here in terms of how that operates, and so what you're seeing today, utilizing telephonic engagement, is one of those avenues to do that. As far as operations go, we've reinstituted our Emergency Operations Center, as well as our Human Services Department Operations Center. Both are up and running and working in coordination with each other. However, we are looking at some opportunities to relocate the Department Operations Center in closer proximity to the EOC, really to strengthen those relationships. I do want to acknowledge the Sheriff's Office, CAL FIRE, and our HHS staff have been just outstanding, putting this up together and kind of working out some of the logistics leading up to this. As far as remote capabilities, we have a number of our staff that are working from remote locations. I will tell you that the network capacity has been really sound. We have upwards of 600 to 800 employees currently accessing our county network remotely, with minimal impact to the bandwidth concerns that we were initially identifying that we wanted to make sure were in place. So that is going really well. We have our parks, our open space operations remain open. As you heard last night, the governor did close the parking lots to our state parks, and as such, significantly limited the access to the state parks. We're going to take a look at how that's impacting our county parks as well, because that may shift over some of the interest to our county parks. So we're going to look at that. So I do know, for example, our regional Hidden Falls Regional Park is now going to 7-day reservations because we've seen so much activity that really started over the weekend and is continuing throughout the week. We also have noticed a significant uptick in responding. The Sheriff's Office dispatch has responded to over 1,000 calls over the weekend on a variety of topics, really subsequent to the governor's order going out. So clarification about outdoor accessibility and residents being outdoors, and so the shelter-in-place order that was put up by the governor has created some confusion. So we're working in with the PIO staff to get out general messaging to residents and business owners alike around that, and we'll continue to do that, running it all really through the EOC. Public Works, I'll let you know they are doing some social distancing, but we do have crews out both doing basic road maintenance activities as well as snow removal. Efforts are going to continue as we see snow and kind of weather-related activities taking place in the Sierras. As far as CEDRA, our Community Development Resource Agency, does have very limited staff in the office. The majority of the activity that's taking place now is implementing their e-services and online permitting activities. I'd encourage residents or business owners or developers that are interested. We are still open for business, and as such, please go to our website that has the contact information for those folks, and they will be happy to assist you. We're really taking advantage of the online service structure that we've put in place and really seeing how that's tested right now. I also encourage folks, if they are interested and want to be up to date, please reference our website. We have something called Placer Alerts. We've done a lot of messaging and marketing around this, but this will give you activities, real-time information that we're utilizing. Placer Alerts, again, is a tool that basically communicates with you, and will send out messages to you as residents or business owners. Quickly internally, as far as staffing goes, we do have, as I've mentioned before, online or telework employees. So we're really looking at managing them, asking staff and our supervisor and managers to really stay in constant contact with them. So we're going to be doing some more frequent updates, as well as some organizationalized emails to keep people engaged and kind of plugged in into what's happening as an organization as a whole. We also do have some staff, I will say, that they can't conduct their business outside of where they're physically located. And so when they've been home, we have kept in contact with them, but we are looking at opportunities to either train them in other departments to provide resources or assistance to other departments, as well as within their own department if they aren't able to do their core functions that were assigned to them prior to this issuance and situation that's arisen. So we're excited about that. I think that gives some opportunities for some cross-training. The final thing I will touch on is our business community has been impacted by this fairly significantly and may continue for a while. We have a lot of resources. Our Business Resource Center is still operating and taking calls, so residents or business owners that have questions, we are continuing to identify what those services for our small business owners are, either from the state or federal packages, and we want to make sure we're really up to speed on how to get those resources out to our business community, either through helping them assist with forms or identifying areas and direction to go. So I'd encourage you to reach out to our Economic Development Department. The Business Resource Center is acting somewhat like a small business development center, and they are able to assist or at least give information to folks about where they can go for those activities. So I wanted to touch on those key things. It's kind of a shortened version. Hopefully that gives you a quick rundown. We'll talk at our next meeting and probably some subsequent updates to you throughout the week about as this continually evolves. Right now we have set in a time frame for 2 weeks for teleworking, but I think that is going to be extended as we kind of evaluate this over this upcoming week. So we'll notify you, and we'll have some information more out. As I said, I can't reiterate enough that we go to the website that has a lot of information for residents and business owners about what we're doing during these kind of unprecedented times. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer from all of you.
Thank you, Todd. Supervisor Euler?
So Todd, during this time, we are continuing with our building inspections?
We are telephonically. We're actually business developers can actually come in and talk with our staff. They're still engaged, or just engaged in a different way than straight off the counter.
No, I'm thinking more the field inspections as.
Field inspections are continuing.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Very, very important from a business standpoint because, as you know, payments get made based on inspection benchmarks passing, and
Correct.
Yeah, nothing would hurt the business community that's involved in our construction of our housing more than stopping that inspection process. That's very important.
Yeah.
In regard to the parks, just my 2 cents worth, I think it was an incredible overreach and overreaction for the governor to say that we're just going to close down the parking lots of the parks. While there might have been very heavy utilization of some of the South State beach parks, Granite Bay entrance to the Folsom Lake State Park, which has historically been the most used state park in the California State Park system, is still being used by people, but nowhere near what we see on a sunny July afternoon, where it would be difficult to respect this quote-unquote social distancing. It's very easy on the thousands of acres that comprise the state park at Folsom Lake for people to keep their distance, whether they're on horseback or out fishing on the lake or running on the trails. And so I'm very disappointed that the governor didn't draw any distinction as to what was going to be closed and where. And I would hate to see us replicate that. I think that it is important, especially during this time of people feeling cooped up, that they have a place to go and relax and stretch their legs. And if they happen to see somebody else on the trail, I'm sure they won't give them a big hug. I'm sure that everybody will be just fine. So I would encourage us to keep operations as normal as possible with our parks, regardless of how the state has reacted or overreacted in this instance.
Okay.
Supervisor Gustafson.
I just wanted to follow up. I certainly agree with Supervisor Euler about trying to keep our parks open as long as possible, as long as people are taking those precautions, and I think we can institute that. I did want to share that I'm very pleased that we were able to help out. For those who don't know, many residents up in Forest Hill and Alta were without power for significant periods of time, some up to 7 days during, as a result of 2 weeks ago, the storm. And our inspectors were able to get out and re-inspect their service panels so that the PG&E could reestablish power. I think we have everybody back in power except one individual. But we had some seniors up there that were without power and being told to shelter in place, and they were up to 7 days. One 90-year-old woman in particular with her kids calling our office and trying to get assistance. So thankfully, our CAL FIRE helpers went out and checked on her daily, made sure she was doing okay, and I thank so many of our first responders and staff for jumping in over the inspections and get people hooked back up to power.
Thank you, Cindy. All right. Thank you, Todd, to you and your team for all of your hard work during these times. Appreciate it. We're going to next move to an update from our public health officer, Dr. Amy Sisson, who has been on the front line, she and her team. So we're going to give her a call right now and have her give us an update.
Hi, Amy. I'm going to hang up and you'll be live with the board. Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me okay on speaker?
Yes, thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Amy.
Okay. For all of your hard work. We're going to next move to an update from our public health officer, Dr.
Amy, can you turn the...
Yeah, sorry. We got thrown off by the delay.
Yeah.
So thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on COVID-19 and our response to the epidemic this morning. As of this morning, there are 24 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Placer County. In the last 4 days, cases have nearly tripled from 9 to 24.
Most of the cases are associated with travel or are close contacts of confirmed cases, but at least one case is believed to be a community-acquired. Geographically, the cases reside across the county. As I stated in my last address to the board, the virus that causes COVID-19 is circulating in the Placer community. The 24 confirmed cases likely represent only the tip of the COVID-19 iceberg. In the coming days and weeks, I expect to see many more cases of COVID-19 in Placer County, including many cases who will require hospitalization, intensive care, and some of whom will die. Yesterday, I advised hospitals to begin to implement their surge plans so that they will be ready to care for the expected increase in cases. As part of these surge plans, hospitals will expand the numbers of beds available, including ICU beds. The county is also preparing for the possibility that even at surge capacity, hospitals will not be able to care for the large number of patients with serious COVID-19 disease. Our teams are planning for non-hospital alternate care sites where persons with COVID-19 could be treated. We face an uphill battle against COVID-19, a battle that we are entering under less than ideal conditions. There are worldwide shortages of personal protective equipment needed to keep healthcare workers and first responders safe. There are not enough swabs to collect nose and throat specimens from people with symptoms. There is not enough laboratory capacity to test even a fraction of people with symptoms. We don't know exactly how the virus is spread or if people are able to spread it without symptoms. There are some promising treatments being discovered through clinical trials, but no drug approved to treat COVID-19. There is no vaccine expected for at least a year. To win this battle, we need everybody's help. We must each do our part to slow the spread of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. The world must unite against our common enemy, the novel coronavirus, not turn against each other with partisan accusations or fighting over the last package of toilet paper. Last week, I directed every Placer County resident to stay at home except for essential activities like healthcare or obtaining necessary supplies like food. The governor of California issued a similar statewide mandate shortly thereafter. By staying at home, the number of opportunities the virus has to jump from one person to another is reduced, and spread of the virus will slow down. Slowing the spread will allow our county, state, and country time to replenish our supplies of PPE and swabs, to expand our testing capacity, to identify effective treatments, and to make progress on a vaccine. Public health and other county agencies have been inundated with questions about whether certain businesses are considered essential under my directive and the governor's order. Most of these questions miss the point, which is that everybody who can stay home should stay home. Just because you can leave your house to go to the grocery store doesn't mean you should shop for groceries every day. Limit your trips. Every time you leave your house, you risk being exposed to the virus. When you do leave your house, stay 6 feet away from other people and wash your hands or sanitize frequently. Even if your business is essential, you should have only the minimum number of people necessary to get the work done, and everyone still needs to stay 6 feet apart. I am grateful to the vast majority of Placer County residents who have heeded my directive and are staying home. For those who are not yet convinced that novel coronavirus is a serious threat to our lives and economy, I implore you to stay home. All of our lives depend on it. Please do not wait for more people to die to take this seriously. By then, it will be too late. Because it takes time for people to develop symptoms after being exposed to someone with the virus, and then takes several more days for them to get sick enough to go to the hospital, and may then take weeks of treatment before they ultimately pass away. Waiting for people to die means that many, many more people will be infected. Your friends, your neighbors, your family, yourself. We only have to look to Italy to see the devastation that may result if we do not take this threat seriously. We must stay home. Is this inconvenient? Absolutely. Is it hard on our economy? Absolutely. Must we do it anyway? Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sisson. Really appreciate the update and just such a good reminder for our residents to stay at home and only go out for essential services, but do what we can to take care of one another, which is of utmost importance. So any questions from board members? Supervisor Gustafson.
Thanks. Dr. Sisson and myself and many others have been on the phone over the last several days talking about visitors to the Tahoe area and the eastern Placer County area and discussing the governor's orders as well as the county directive and a growing movement through both emails and social media as well as petitions to try to have the county take more aggressive stand on those short-term rentals and lodging stays. So it's been a growing issue that we've been addressing, and I think, Dr. Sisson, I think you were going to prepare to put some language out to clarify the stay-at-home order related to lodging. Are you prepared to talk about that now, or?
Yes, thank you, Supervisor. Yes, we are preparing language today to clarify to the public that the governor's executive order does not allow for short-term rentals for anything other than limited purposes, which include the containment and mitigation of COVID-19, use by the owner, or for people under isolation or quarantine, or for essential workers that fall under the essential critical infrastructure sectors outlined by the governor. And then also clarifying that the health officer directive issued last week allows only for essential travel, and that does not include leisure or vacation travel. And so people should not be traveling and using hotel rooms for their leisure. Those are only to remain open for people traveling for essential business who are critical infrastructure workers. And so that clarification will be coming out later today from my office.
Thank you. And I can't thank you enough on the leadership and the clarifications on that. I think we need to get that messaging out, and I just wanted to let the board members know the ski area is actually shut down on one of the peak days they could have raised revenue well ahead of the governor or the county ordering them to. That was March 15th. Our business community up there has sent messaging out to the Bay Area saying, please don't come. We want you back. Please come later. But right now we're concerned about our capacity of our hospital, our grocery stores, everything to serve huge numbers of visitors. We had a lag. And as things evolved during this week, it appeared to me that people that had already booked and were in-house stayed and didn't travel home, and there's a huge concern about that. So I wanted the rest of the board to understand that and how closely we've worked to try to calm people down, to focus on taking care of themselves and not as much worried about who's next door. But we have seen the closure of most of the major lodging has closed and did close already. Short-term rentals are the one that we're still struggling a bit with getting out to Airbnb and VRBO, so we've been reaching out to the governor's office and our federal officials to help us get some messaging on those platforms to assist in this as well. And then, Todd, we talked with you about also having our CEDRA staff and code enforcement making calls if people suspect there's a rental, that we actually call the owners of record or the property managers and again inform them of the governor's directive and order. And if then we still have non-compliance, whether or not the sheriff officers can look at the most egregious situations and issue citations under the current governor's executive order. So we have a thought process as to how we'll proceed with this. Many of you are probably getting those same emails I'm getting and the calls with concerns about this, and I think we're doing everything within our power. And I know we've researched what other jurisdictions are doing, and we are taking the best practices from all of those to institute what we need to do. So anyway, I wanted to thank Dr. Sisson for your patience with a number of phone calls related to that. There's many things on your plate. Your team is doing an outstanding job. I was fortunate to visit the EOC 10 days ago. It seems like an eternity ago, as to what we already had up and running. So I just want to thank all of you for your hard work. And one of the questions I do have for you, Dr. Sisson, is I've had a request from folks to know more about the geography of where the cases are. And I know you said they're spread throughout the county. Is that something that we would typically report?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Supervisor. I think we have concerns with when our case numbers were lower, of providing too much information that would allow individual cases to be identified. But as our case numbers are increasing, I think we will be able to share increased geographic detail around where the cases are.
Great, thank you. And then finally, the continued questions of how we're going to enforce this on a case-by-case basis. I don't know how many sheriffs we have on duty at one time in the North Tahoe region, but I can assure people that they are taxed already protecting public health and safety. And so for us to be arresting people at the gates or at the roundabouts or at the entries and trying to determine is this essential travel or not is not practical, nor is it practical for people as they leave San Francisco to be asked, are you leaving for essential business, where these guests are coming from. So I think, from what I've learned from county staff and reading and talking to other county supervisors in impacted communities, we have to have some faith in humankind that with education and true messaging, maybe even from the governor again to reiterate these issues, that we'll get 90% will comply. And so I'm hopeful that we can continue to spread that message and get voluntary compliance with good education.
And I just want to add to that, as was mentioned just a minute ago, our code compliance or code enforcement staff are here to assist when there's issues with short-term rentals or residents that feel that may be taking place outside of what the directive is. Our host compliance organization, there is a hotline number that individuals can call into, and our code compliance, code enforcement staff can look into those issues. Our ultimate goal is education, and that's partially why we're doing this outreach, and we'll continue to do that. There may be situations where we need to engage our law enforcement staff, but that should be down the road. I don't think that's the first effort that we're going to put into this. So.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Sisson. Really appreciate it. And just as a reminder for people, if you need more information about what the county is doing, you can go to our website, which can directly link you to all the resources about COVID-19. And also there is a hotline number and an email address if you've got specific questions that will go directly to our public health staff. So if you've got questions, you can check the website and you can reach out to staff in that way if you've got a particular question or concern that you have for our public health staff. So with that, thank you very much. I'm going to move into just any other board member reports, but for the public, if we're going to move into public comment right after this, and if you want to make comments to the board during public comment, you are welcome to call in at this time, and you can queue up, and we'll take those public comments. With that, any other board member reports? Just so that the public is aware, we've had two board members step out briefly. Supervisor Wygant and Supervisor Euler have had to step out briefly, but they will be back as we continue to conduct business.
We do have one caller waiting in the queue for public comment on COVID-19. If you'd like to take that, we can.
Actually, we can move into public comment.
I just wanted to make sure, I don't have the 800 number memorized for short-term rental issues, but I do want to encourage people to call that if they have concerns when they see occupants in short-term rentals, and our code enforcement folks will look into it. But I don't have that number handy. Todd, can we?
I will get it.
Okay.
We'll actually put it on the website.
Okay.
I believe it's there already, but
it is, but
we'll
maybe-
try and make it more pronounced.
Okay, great. And we'll circulate that through our media. So thanks.
Great.
Great. So let's go ahead and we will move into public comment. And we do have somebody who's got a question about COVID-19. And Dr. Sisson, I think, is still there to answer any questions that come up during public comment about COVID-19. So yes, please go ahead and state your comment.
Please transfer the caller in. It'll take a 30-second delay. You're connected with the Board of Supervisors. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Muriel Moore, and I'm a resident of Roseville. And good morning, first of all, to all of you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Good morning, Supervisor Gore, and to Supervisor Holmes. Social distancing, hug from a distance, yes, but to all of you as well. I wanted to speak. I'm a resident of Roseville. I am also on the Older Adult Advisory Commission for Placer County, and I don't speak as one of their, I'm not speaking in terms of the commission, but I am speaking as being a older adult in this community, I will say that. And I'm also I said resident of Roseville, but I'm also a city employee, and I'm a school crossing guard. So for all of that, I want to say thank you all for the board for your service and what you're doing. But I wanted to talk about the COVID-19 COVID, the virus that's going around. And it's a short story. I know I have 3 minutes, but I've been on hold for 40 minutes, but that's okay. But it's a story. When my husband and I lived in Roseville for 12 years, we lived in Rockland, and I had to make a choice. He had Alzheimer's, so I sold the home, moved us up to El Dorado County into Cameron Park, into a community that could help me care for him. When we were there, it was hit with a neurovirus, that community, which was the first time I and that community had experienced the neurovirus. And I was talking with the director in terms of where did it come from, how did this, that, and the other, because it did affect the whole community. And he said it was probably resident to resident. And I said, no, that doesn't sound right. So anyway, saying that, I wanted to investigate. So I called the El Dorado Board of the county board to find out how something like this permeates the area. And they said that it's probably because it comes from an outside source. And I said, okay, outside source, that sounds pretty good. I said, in terms of where to start. And then talking with one of my friends in Rockland at the time, she said, oh, well, Muriel, that just hit this particular community, Casa de Santa Fe, at that time 2 weeks ago. And I said, oh, and they were always being hit with the neurovirus. And I said, okay, so that's when I started investigating more. I'm saying this to say that particular virus, the neurovirus, at that particular time, traveled through 3 different counties in Northern California: El Dorado, Folsom. It hit El Dorado County, it hit Sacramento County by way of Folsom, and it hit also Placer County by one person who was not a resident. She was an aide that was going from community to community servicing older people. So my saying this is to say a virus does not contain itself. It doesn't ask, are you 64? Oh, you're 64, then I'll catch you in 3 months. Or are you 65? Oh, you're 65, I can get you. it doesn't know a boundary line between El Dorado County or Placer County or Sacramento County. It's going to go for whatever, and the need needs to be to look for whatever that common denominator is. In this case, it happened to be the aid. It's something that's brought in from the outside, the virus. It travels in. It makes itself contained in a place like a senior residence so that it can spread like a cruise ship, so it can spread. But the usual common denominator is something from the outside coming in.
Thank you so much, Muriel.
When I press further in terms of El Dorado Health Department, I'll say, El Dorado County Health Department, they said, well, we didn't know that it came up from there because counties don't share health information. That just blew my mind. You don't share with one another. Blew my mind. You share it, you give it to the state, but you don't share with one another. Well, how in the world are we able to get a handle on something like this if we're not sharing that information? County to county, city to city, we have to keep all of our residents safe, and especially those that are can be most impacted by it. And it doesn't have to be an age. It doesn't have to be a particular medical condition. It's a virus. It's going to go and find the person that it lands on. And that's when it starts to spread and spread and spread.
Thank you so much,
That's all
Muriel.
I wanted to say.
Thank you.
That's me. Thank you.
We
have to
appreciate your
start sharing
comments.
that information, county to county.
Yes, I appreciate the comments and know that our public health officers are working not only with the state, but they're all working together to address this issue. This is a statewide effort, and they are all communicating. So really appreciate your input,
Absolutely,
Muriel.
and I thank Governor Newsom for that. Yes, absolutely. I appreciate that. So we have to stay on top of that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
And all of you all stay safe. It's a beautiful day down here, so this is a good day to take a walk by oneself. Okay.
Thank you, Muriel.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Do we have any other public comments? All right, we'll move
Next
to the
caller,
next
please.
comment.
And the delay is actually longer than we had. You're on with the Board of Supervisors. Please state your name for the record.
Nicole Lutzmiller.
Okay, Nicole, we're ready for your comments.
Hi, Board. Thanks for taking my call and for hosting this meeting remotely. My name is Nicole Lutzmiller. I'm a resident of Tahoe City, and I also serve on the North Tahoe Regional Advisory Council. And I just wanted to address the issue that Supervisor Gustafson brought up with short-term rentals. And I appreciate all that the county is doing so far to try to address the influx of visitors that we've seen during the stay-at-home order. But I did want to express that I don't think it's enough, given the current situation and the reactions that we're seeing in our community. I live in the Lake Forest Glen condo complex, one of the largest condo complexes in the country, and we have frequently been seeing people still coming up for short-term stays in the units that we know are short-term rentals in our community, and I've been talking to a lot of community members. And while I know that we have this hotline we can call, that's going to be basically a reactionary response to this issue, where people are still going to be able to come up and stay in the short-term rentals, and then we're reacting to that situation and dealing with it after the fact. It's not going to prevent anyone from coming up and traveling and potentially spreading the virus in our community. We've been really lucky so far to have a very low infection rate in our community, at least as far as we know with the number of tests that have been given out. And I think it's really important that we maintain that low infection rate. And basically I'm asking that the board consider a ban on short-term rentals like has been done in some other jurisdictions in the country. The town of Big Bear Lakes in Southern California issued a temporary ban on short-term rentals for any use other than housing medical and emergency personnel. And I think that that is the only way that we're really going to be able to reduce or stop the use of short-term rentals for vacations during this time when a lot of people can work remotely and are out of school and are seeing this as an opportunity to take a vacation. And while I understand that it's appealing to come up to an area like Tahoe, obviously that's why I live here. It's just a beautiful place to be and to be experiencing a quarantine, but that kind of defeats the purpose of the stay-at-home order and the effort to reduce the spread of the disease. And so I don't think that issuing, recommendations is all that effective in this case, because people aren't going to listen to it unless there is an actual consequence. And a consequence after the fact isn't going to stop people either. People are still going to be making money off of their short-term rentals, and people are still going to be coming up here and utilizing those short-term rentals unless we actually put some kind of ban in place. And I understand the economic impact that this would have on the owners of those short-term rentals, and that is something that, all small business owners are experiencing, whether it's short-term rental owners or our restaurants and our service workers or my roommates who lost their jobs at the ski resorts. And so I'm really just asking you guys to step up as leaders of our county and the lawmakers in our jurisdiction to issue a short-term rental ban, because I think that's the only way that we're actually going to be able to prevent people from coming and spreading the disease in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Nicole. Appreciate it. The next caller, please.
Next caller, please. You're on with the Board of Supervisors. Please state your name for the record.
Mary Jane Peterson.
Go ahead and give your comments.
I'm a resident of Meadow Vista. And first of all, thank you for all of you and what you're doing during this time. I have a concern. I've been watching a lot of the news, and it appears that they're talking about Italy going under a full lockdown where no one will be allowed to leave their residence at all. And so my concern is, how will people be fed? And what will happen with things like garbage and animals and that sort of thing? And is the county thinking about these things ahead of time? And if so, what are the plans? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. We'll go ahead and we're going to take more public comment, and then at the end, if Dr. Sisson would like to follow up on any other comments that were made, we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next caller, please. You're on with the Board of Supervisors. Please state your name for the record.
Sherry Sugal.
Could you repeat that one more time?
Yes, it's Sherry, Cheri, Sugal, S as in Sam, Ugal.
Please go ahead and give your comments.
Yes, hi. Thanks so much for allowing me the opportunity to comment today. I'm commenting on short-term rentals at this time during the crisis that we're experiencing. I apologize if some of these comments have already been made. I am actually just learning about the meeting now and wanted to make sure that I was able to give a public comment. I was the person who started the petition, which has been sent to the Board of Supervisors email. The petition is to issue a ban on temporary short-term rentals in eastern Placer County. The petition was actually sent out on Saturday night, and within 3 days we already have 2,500 signatures, and I think that really indicates the level of concern that this community has over short-term rentals. I think given lots of other platforms for communication, what I do understand is that several property managers have met with the Board of Supervisors, and that there has been an effort on behalf of the Board of Supervisors to get in touch with homeowners and let them know that they would be out of compliance with the executive order. However, this is clearly not enough. If you go on to any of the platforms like Airbnb, for example, There are over 300 available rentals right now if you just do a search for Kings Beach. And if you look at the comments of homeowners who are renting, they say it is up to the discretion of the travelers as to whether they want to rent. There are places that are still being rented that have reviews saying that this is a very nice place to stay during the COVID-19 crisis. People are coming up here to basically get out of the city. And unfortunately, until there is real regulation, real enforcement on behalf of the Placer County Board of Supervisors, with great sympathy, I think we all recognize that people are struggling financially right now, and they will do whatever they need to do to get by. But it's really up to the Board of Supervisors to protect the health and safety of this community. I have a short-term rental. I have had it blocked for the last month, whenever this all started, and it is a significant economic hit to me. But I recognize that my own personal economic well-being is second to the health and safety of this community, and I hope that the Board of Supervisors will do the same. I think that those mechanisms are already in place. As being a homeowner with a short-term rental, the new regulations are quite heavy, right? And there's already mechanisms to regulate short-term rentals. So I think there's a way that you all could extend that existing regulation through amendments or some other means, and really enforce this shelter-in-place order. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today, and I will continue to update you all on just the development of this petition. I encourage you to look at it, look at the comments. You can really see in the hundreds and hundreds of comments that people are putting on this petition that they're very, very concerned about this. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
Sure. Chair Gore, can we just remind people that are listening that we will address some of these points in our further follow-up with our county exec at the end?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Next caller, please.
At this point, we have no callers in the queue.
All right. At this point, no more callers in the queue. With that, we will just follow up. Dr. Sisson, if you are there, if there are any other comments that you want to make just to follow up on what we've just heard?
I think I will leave it to the board to address the request on short-term rentals. In regards to the question regarding a full lockdown, that is not something that the Placer County Public Health or the Placer County Health Officer is considering ordering. My understanding is if that request were made, it would be coming from the state or the federal level.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And then I'll bring it back to the board. Supervisor Gustafson?
Yes, I had a question for Karen because I've gone over this several times over the weekend with you, so it won't surprise you. The governor's order and Dr. Sisson's directive both say that short-term rentals for non-essential reasons are banned, and people are throwing around the term banned, but they are not permitted under that order. Is that correct?
That is correct. Short-term rentals are not allowed to be used for purely commercial reasons.
Right.
During the executive order.
And so what we've been dealing with on numerous calls, many hours, I think all day long yesterday, I was on calls till, I want to say 10 o'clock last night on this issue. We can currently cite, if law enforcement had resources, they could currently cite people and owners for violating that under the governor's directive.
Yes, under the governor's executive order,
right.
The sheriff can cite.
Right. So I think there's a misunderstanding of what a ban would do any more than what the governor has already done and what our county's done, and that's what I've come to understand talking to our sheriff, talking to our code enforcement folks, talking to county council and the county exec. And so last week when before the petition started, we actually were working on messaging in the Bay Area to tell people that the ban includes that, or the stay at home included them, get messaging out to please stay home. But then subsequently, Todd, I think staff has taken some actions. Do you want to report on that? And then we can come back to what further steps.
Yeah, so, as kind of I talked to briefly, what we did is our code compliance staff have actually been reaching out. We sent out a message from our revenue services operation that actually collects the TOT, or that tax collection for short-term rentals, and notified those property management companies or owners if their contact information was identified for everybody that actually had a TOT certificate, notifying them of both this directive and the governor's order. So this information, and again, as I mentioned before, we're talking about educating and the reasoning why we're discouraging folks to be doing this. So we did send out information on, I believe it was yesterday morning, regarding the specific request. So everybody should receive it. Again, we have a hotline for individuals that want to still feel like there is activity that's taking place. I'm going to give that number. That number is actually 530-448-8003. It also will be on our website, and we're going to be pushing that on social media. So we have taken action and have taken steps to notify these property owners, and I'll continue to do so. Where we need law enforcement engagement, we'll do so at that time. But I know our code enforcement staff is directed to ensuring that this order and this directive remains in force.
Yeah, I did talk. I had the opportunity to talk to a few folks that appeared to be visitors. They were ski lease people that had come up to, they needed to vacate the property, and so they had come up for the weekend, but were getting their things out because their lease was up, and they were moving things out. That's just one example. Everything has changed so quickly in 1 week that I think we're still hearing the reaction from people that had already booked, may have already been in occupancy, and then were leaving. But it certainly seems to have slowed down. But I understand people's concerns, and they're valid. And I spoke with our counterparts in Truckee and Nevada County over the weekend. Our messaging went out on Sunday to our all vacation home owners, rentals. And I believe we're also asking host compliance to subsequently notify them again with the clarification from Dr. Sisson today.
Correct.
And we're going to be getting that messaging out as well. And I thank you, and I thank the sheriff. I know this was not something he wanted to start staffing up. He does not feel he has adequate resources to travel to every one of the short-term rentals in the region and try to enforce. So we're going to rely on community members to call the number, and then we are going to call those owners and find out what is happening. And then if we still find that we need to go a step further, then we can have the sheriff. But we want to be judicious in how much he spends his time citing these individuals. I think so often the public thinks we can just send an army out to enforce these sorts of restrictions, and we can't. We don't have adequate staff to do that. And so we need to focus on education. And I really see the article in the Bee today. I've seen articles from all over the country in small communities with the same concern that people are leaving urbanized areas and going to the country, feeling safer in those locations, not realizing those smaller communities may not have adequate resources to address the issues. So I'm encouraged, so strongly encouraged. Our professional management companies have canceled all reservations. I talked to one yesterday. They'd had 130 cancellations by the guests that were coming, and the remaining 30 they had on the books for the next month, they have reached out and canceled all of those and offered full refunds. So our next step, and I have emails out to the governor's office and our senator's offices asking for help with Airbnb and VRBO, because currently you can go on their platforms and there is no warning that you shouldn't be traveling for leisure time in California right now, anywhere in California. The governor's order is very clear. And so I think we just need to keep informing everybody that this is not appropriate behavior and that we expect them to stay home and do what the governor has asked them to do. So I really appreciate all the staff support on this and the messaging you've been doing throughout the weekend to try to address this, Todd. Thank you.
Supervisor Euler.
Yeah, folks are focused on the short-term rental nature of this, but if I may just for a moment kind of sanity check this conversation. Because if I live in Burlingame and I own a condo in Carnelian Bay and I'm ordered to quote-unquote shelter in place, I know which of the two properties I'm going to choose. I'm getting out of Burlingame and I'm going to my condo in Carnelian Bay, and I'm going to hang out there for a couple weeks, and I'm not going to be in Burlingame. We can't stop that. We can't stop people from coming up and using their own properties up there. And the nature of some of the comments that I'm reading and some of the communications that I'm getting in my office from people in Tahoe are suggesting if you don't show a valid Carnelian Bay ID, you can't come to Carnelian Bay. We simply can't do that. We simply cannot prohibit people from traveling on our highways and byways and utilizing their own property. Likewise, one of my closest friends has a place on West Shore. My family often uses it. He does make it available for rental, but he doesn't charge me. He lets my family go up and use his place on West Shore. There's no prohibition against my family utilizing his place on West Shore because it's not a commercial activity. So there are things that we can do within the order, but there are things that we can't do within the order. And so if folks have an expectation that somehow we are going to be able to control all human movement and people from visiting the basin who don't live in the basin, it's simply an unrealistic expectation. It's not what the order says, nor is it what the order allows. I'm very confident that within the parameters of the order as issued by our public health officer as well as the governor, our county staff is doing everything that we can to make sure that we limit the visitations. But folks need to be realistic that if I have a place up there and I want to go use it, there ain't nothing stopping me from doing that.
Thank you, Supervisor Euler. I think what it comes back down to is us encouraging the community about what's allowed and what's not allowed, and really encouraging folks to do what's appropriate to protect yourself and our neighbors. That's most important, right? This is really not about ourselves. This is about taking care of one another in this uncertain time and with this disease. And so I just appreciate the comments that we've had. Thank you to the public for commenting. Thank you to the work that's been done by our staff. And thank you to everyone who's really doing our part to stay at home and only utilize essential services. So with that, before we move into our first timed item, so if there are members of the public who want to call in for the first couple of items, please do so. And then there's one report, Supervisor Euler had one quick report out.
Yeah,
so
just under board member reports. Want to thank the voters of District 5 for validating the decision that this board made a year ago in appointing Cindy to the seat with a
Can we take it back now?
with an overwhelming, I think, over 70% of the vote that you captured in your district, and so I knew at the time that our board made the right choice, and the voters have ratified that and affirmed that. So congratulations to you, and I congratulate my colleague Supervisor Holmes, who will be beginning your 5th term. That's amazing. Congratulations to you, and then also to recognize the fact that after 18 years on the board, this will be my final year as a member of this board, and to that end, last Friday I reached out to Supervisor-elect Suzanne Jones to offer my congratulations, and then to also offer my assistance in the transition, as this board knows, as evidenced by what we're talking about this morning. There are a myriad very complex issues that our board has to weigh and balance, and so I have offered my assistance in beginning to meet with her to get her up to speed on budget-related items, some of the areas of county service delivery that aren't as well known to the public, and also reached out to Todd to see what I could do to begin facilitating meetings between her and senior management folks, so that the time that she assumes this seat, she's able to hit the ground running, and then you guys can just bring her along as you have with so many other new folks. So just wanted to recognize my colleagues, congratulate you, and say it's been a pleasure, but you're stuck with me for another 8 months at least. So.
Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. Thank you, Kirk. Supervisor Euler. No, Wygant. Sorry, I'm looking at Kirk and
Kirk,
name.
you and I became colleagues in 1995.
That makes it sound really old.
When at least I was a lot younger. So I want to congratulate you for a great career on the board of Placer County. Your fingerprints will be left around here for a long, long time. You did a lot of great things.
I'm using wipes.
Yeah. Well, figuratively speaking, I especially am indebted to you for when you came back, stepping up and being willing, first of all, to serve on the ad hoc Placer County Conservation Plan Committee, which took us a few years to resolve, but it was a great tag team. We're almost done now. You'll see it get signed into existence before you leave for sure. And it's going to be something that'll have a positive impact on this county for the next 50 years. So thank you.
No, absolutely. Like I said, you're still stuck with me for another 8 months.
Good. All right. Thank you very much. So we will move to our 9:05 timed item at 10:20 a.m., which is the Public Works application for Recreation Park District Placer Vineyard specific plan. And we're calling staff to present to us.
Okay, Andy, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. Take it away.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Chair Gore, members of the board, Andy Fisher, Placer County Park Administrator. I wanted to thank all of you and the clerk's office and the AB team for everything that went on in the background to make this happen. Today, I know there was a lot of adaptation. Before I got started on this item, I did want to take one quick moment to follow up on the status report from our CEO and the board members this morning on use of county parks. We are indeed happy to keep those parks open for folks to avoid the craziness and being cooped up in houses. We have asked, and we are posting within each of our parks, that people avoid the high contact areas. That would be bathrooms, playgrounds, benches, picnic tables, those kind of things. Hidden Falls Regional Park normally requires reservations on weekends and holidays. Beginning this Saturday, we will require reservations every day of the week, indefinitely through the influx that we're seeing, in order to keep just order out there and to keep from overcrowding. We did have to, there were a few folks CHP ticketed that parked outside the gate in the no parking zone this weekend. We don't want to have to see that, so we just ask, please help us to keep the parks open and safe by respecting those rules. With that, I'll go into the item before you this morning, moving from parks in general to the far western part of Placer County and the Placer Vineyards area. The action is to conduct a public hearing pursuant to Public Resource Code Section 5782.5 and adopt a resolution of application authorizing an application to the Placer County Local Agency Formation Commission to form a new recreation and park district to serve Placer Vineyards specific plan area. Back in February 9th of 2016, your board authorized a very similar application to the one before you today, and it went on and was approved by the LAFCO agency. The filing of the notice of completion to complete the formation of this district was predicated on two conditions. One, that the fee programs would be in place to support the district, and two, the services CFD, Community Facility District, to support maintenance would be in place. Since that time, the the Services CFD has been formed, but the fee program has not. We expect the fee program to be in place mid-year this year. But as a consequence of that fee program not being formed, the application expired. So this action reinitiates that application process from 2016, almost identical application from the one that went in 2016, simply updated for the way that some of the different properties and maps have evolved since 2016 and takes into consideration the cost of living increases in the pro forma since that time. This district, we talk a lot about districts when we talk about funding districts. This one would be a district with a board of directors to govern and maintain and do the work of providing parks and recreation in the Placer Vineyards area. At build out, there'd be 149 acres of new parks, a recreation center, aquatic center and gymnasium that are intended to be joint use ventures with the school district. There'd be 35 miles of paved bike paths and 7 miles of dirt trail, up to 800 acres of open space, and up to 110 acres of landscape corridors along those roadways. The district would provide a level of recreation programming that is not currently part of the general plan goals for Placer County operations. That's one of the reasons for requesting the district formation. In order to, along with the application, there are some requirements of the application, some required statements that your board must make to LAFCO, and I'm going to run through those quickly. First of all, that it's formed pursuant to the Cortez-Knox-Hertzberg Local Government Reorganization Act, beginning in Government Code 56,000. It is a requirement to have sufficient funding in place to support the district, and that'll be done through two different fee programs, a neighborhood park fee and a community park fee, that will pay for development of parks and amenities out at Placer Vineyards. And then a services community facility district would place a special tax of between $265 and $615 per year per dwelling unit, depending on the type and occupancy of those units. Recreation programming would also be supported by user fees. The proposed name of the new district is the Placer Vineyards Park and Recreation District. The initial board of the new district would be your board, the Board of Supervisors, and the plan of services for the district estimates that would transition from your board to a board of elected residents somewhere about the 6,000th housing unit. It could be sooner, it could be later, depending on the desires of the board and the residents at the time. The district is not intended to have the power of eminent domain. It's anticipated that the specific plan already provides for the transfer of all property that the district would need. The scope of services of the district would be to maintain those facilities that I enumerated earlier, as well as rec programming, as well as environmental management of the open space preserves going into perpetuity. The timing of those services would be based on the receipt of development fees, so each of those things, beginning probably with landscape corridors, and then dedication of open space and parks, would happen at the pace of development. All of the infrastructure that would be supported by this district is consistent with the adopted Placer Vineyards specific plan, the development agreement, and the associated phasing plans. And just to sum that all up, the summary of purpose that would be made to LAFCO is that the district will facilitate the provision of recreational development, services, and opportunities for the citizens residing in the geographic area not currently being served by such facilities. Formation of the district will provide the future citizens within the unincorporated Placer Vineyards area the opportunity to determine the specific recreational services they would prefer and develop and institute priorities appropriate for this area. Finally, just a couple of areas that would follow up to this action if it is approved. One is that within the first year of adoption of the district, the board and the new board would develop a sphere of influence. So would the existing boundary around Placer Vineyards remain just Placer Vineyards, or would that sphere of influence allow expansion into some of the other existing parks in West Placer, some of the other specific plans such as Regional University, Placer Ranch? Those are decisions of that sphere of influence that we would have about a year to think about and make. And then also the method of administration. So when a board is in place, staff would provide some scenarios of how to administer this district, particularly in the early years, that may involve the use of some county staff, use of contractors for work on the ground, perhaps consultant services, and those sorts of things. Those would be recommendations we would work with the board on as to how to administer that district. With that, I'll turn it back to the board, and it is a hearing.
Great, thank you very much, Andy. Any questions from board members? Yes, Supervisor Euler.
Just one quick one, Andy. You mentioned that the board would act on an interim basis as the board of the district. That you might have mentioned it, maybe I didn't hear. That would continue until what is the trigger at which point a separate board is elected?
The plan of services estimates the point at which there are 6,000 residential units, but that's just an estimate. There are no hard boundaries. As soon as there's enough of a representative population in the area to decide, it could be transferred to an election. The key and the reason that you are the board now, you would be the board in the beginning, is that the only other option would be that it would have to be elected from a representative population. So as soon as everybody feels there's enough of a representative population, that could transition.
Yeah, I get that. I just didn't know if there was any kind of a hard and fast trigger, but really it's for a future board to decide when they've reached critical mass and they can hand it off.
Great.
Okay.
He's probably assenting, yes. All right, no other comments from board members, any comments from the public? They should have queued up by now.
No callers on hold.
All right, no callers on hold. With that, I will bring it back to the board, and I'll just make one comment since this was a little bit new to me and it's in District 1. I think it's really important that we actually have services, park and rec services in an area like this that are more like city services. And this is exactly what this will do. We'll be providing sort of more robust recreation facilities like they have in the city of Rockland or in the city of Roseville. And this allows the county to do this in a way that is funded by the residents themselves, by the jurisdiction, and we can have those park and rec facilities. So it was I appreciate the update from staff, me learning about it. And
just a
yes.
Quick clarification, did us going to the potential phones constitute a public hearing, council? Okay, all right, so we satisfied the public hearing requirement by, okay, thank you.
All right, with that, may I hear a motion?
Move approval of the item.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Holmes, second by Wygant. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much, Andy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 2A, which is a public hearing, the annexation of the Aldea property into Sewer Maintenance District 1 in the Auburn area. And just as a reminder, if people want to call in for public comment on items 2, 3, and 4, that would be helpful to queue up.
Hi, Sarah. It's Megan. Okay, so I'm going to hang up and then you'll be on with the board. Make sure you have computers and everything turned off in the background. All right, thank you. Okay, Sarah.
Hi, this is Sarah Gilmore. Can you hear me? Yes. All right. I'm just going to blaze on through. Good morning, Chair Gore and board members. Again, Sarah Gilmore, and I'm here on behalf of the Environmental Engineering Division to present the Aldea annexation. As stated in the board memo, we're requesting the board open a public hearing to adopt the resolution, which is included in the staff report, to annex the Aldea property into the boundaries of Sewer Maintenance District Number 1. The Aldea property is located on Florence Lane in the Auburn area, and the development is consistent with the Placer County General Plan. The current annexation fee for reimbursement is for reimbursement to Sewer Maintenance District Number 1, and the applicant will be charged the annexation fee in effect at the time they choose to make payment, based on rates contained in Section 13.12.350 of the code, and is currently $6,344. Staff supports this request, and in order to move forward, we request that your board open the public hearing and adopt the resolution in the staff report to annex the Aldea property into the boundaries of Sewer Maintenance District Number 1. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Great, thank you very much, Sarah. Appreciate that. Any questions from board meeting members All right, seeing none, we will open this up to public comment and a public hearing. Any comments from the public?
No callers in the queue, but we might want to give it just a minute.
All right, we'll give it just another 30 seconds for people to call in, or a minute. Everybody take a breather.
Not that I can tell.
I think we can move forward.
All right, we are going to close the public hearing, and what is the will of the board? Motion by Gustafson, second by Euler. All of those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And Sarah, we can move on to your next item, which is item 3A. It's a public hearing annexation of the Cabral Ranch property into County Service Area 28, Zone of Benefit 173, Dry Creek.
All right. Well, still me, Sarah Gilmore, for the Cabral Ranch annexation. As stated in the board memo, and as you just stated, we're requesting the board open the public hearing, which is included in the staff report, to annex the Cabral Ranch property into the boundaries of County Service Area 28, Zone of Benefit 173, Dry Creek. Cabral Ranch is located west of Cookriolo Road and south of Vineyard Road in the Dry Creek area. The development is consistent with the Dry Creek West Placer Community Plan land use zoning. The current annexation fee for reimbursement to the Dry Creek West Placer Community Facilities District Number 1 is $2,723 per equivalent dwelling unit, or EDU. The proposed subdivision is for 12 lots, which would total $32,676. Staff supports this request, and in order to move forward, we request your board open the public hearing and adopt the resolution in the staff report to annex the Cabral Ranch property into the boundaries of County Service Area Zone of Benefit 173, Dry Creek. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them now.
Thank you, Sarah. It looks like there are no questions from board members, so we've opened the public hearing. We'll move this to public comment. Do we have any comments in the queue?
No callers in the queue.
All right, and I don't anticipate callers, so we will close the public hearing. And what is the will of the board?
Second.
A motion by Euler, second by Gustafson. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with Supervisor Holmes temporarily absent. Next, we'll move on to item 4A, which is the Independent Living Program Services, Placer County Office of Education. And it looks like we'll have Brett Wood and Twyla Abramson, or one of the two, presenting to our board. And if anybody does have public comment, we will ask you to call in and we'll have you queue up.
Okay, Brett, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
All right. Good morning, board members. My name is Brett Wood, your purchasing manager, and I'm joined today with Twyla Abrahamson, the Director of Children's System of Care. We are requesting today the following actions from your board. Number 1, cancel request for proposal number 1-00041 for Independent Living Program Services consistent with Section 6.1H of the Procurement Policy. Number 2, approve the award of competitive request for proposal number 20011 for Independent Living Program Services to the Placer County Office of Education in the amount of $735,690 for a 2-year period and authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to determine the start date. The contract is funded entirely by a dedicated state allocation and other realignment funds with no county general funds required. Number 3, approve the option to renew the resulting contract for 2 additional 2-year renewal periods by the Director of Health and Human Services. And number 4, authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to sign the agreement with Risk Management and County Council concurrence and to sign subsequent amendments up to a total of $73,500, consistent with the current agreement's subject matter and scope of work with Risk Management and County Council concurrence. To provide your board some context to these requested actions, the following background information explains more about both the process and the program. HHS and the Children's System of Care, commonly referred to as CSOC, are responsible for administering an independent living program, referred to as an ILP program, for foster youth in the county. This program is to help foster youth make the transition from the foster program to full independence and provides assistance in a variety of ways, including mentoring, workshops for unemployment, further education, budgeting, and other activities that promote this transition. There are multiple sources that collaborate to provide these services for the youth. In 2008, your board approved an RFP for the ILP services with Unity Care. That contract has been renewed on a regular basis since that time. It is the county's standard process to solicit new proposals on a periodic basis to ensure that we have the most effective services in place and to provide all the parties interested in providing the services an opportunity to explain why they are the most qualified to perform the service. In February of last year, 2019, CSOC and Procurement developed an RFP, number 10041, for the ILP services and released it through a web-based program to the public. It received interest and was reviewed by 32 different entities, but only one response was received from Unity Care. Despite the limited response, the county did elect to proceed into the review and interview phase with Unity Care. We had a panel composed of subject matter experts from a variety of teams that evaluated that proposal. Following that evaluation, Unity Care was notified the county would be recommending an award for these services. Very shortly after that notification, one of Unity Care's key staff, the regional director, who was our Placer County on-site program manager and Unity Care's primary point of contact since 2013, left Unity Care, and it was announced that she would be replaced by another person on an interim basis. Procurement, with the concurrence of Health and Human Services, determined that the on-site program manager's experience and qualifications were integral to the overall value of the services offered in their proposal. Specifically, that program manager was leaving the agency and would not be available to train the ILP staff members, all of whom had been with Unity Care for less than 6 months, and a new manager was only being promised on an interim basis. Because of these reasons, RFP number 10041 should not be awarded at that time. Unity Care was informed of the decision to issue a new RFP, and the existing contract was also extended. Unity Care did not file a protest challenging this decision as required by Section 5 of the procurement policy. Later that same year, in September of 2019, Procurement, in consultation with HHS, developed RFP number 20011 to solicit new proposals for the ILP services. The RFP explained that it was resoliciting the same services as described in the previous RFP. It was also published on our web-based solicitation platform. 103 notices were distributed and 5 proposals were received. A panel composed of subject matter experts from Health and Human Services, Probation, a mental health advocacy agency, a youth advocate, and a community partner evaluated the proposals. 4 of the responding proposals were invited to interview with the panel. Each of the firms invited for the interviews met the basic requirements, and the intent of the interview was to identify the most qualified. This panel determined that the Placer County Office of Education, PCOE, offers the best combination of experience, qualifications, and proposed services with respect to the county's needs for this program. There was a protest to this recommendation that has been reviewed and denied. Some of the elements that PCOE is bringing forward with the ILP services that are not currently being provided under this contract include a partnership with Child Advocates of Placer County, referred to as the Court-Appointed Special Advocates, referred to as CASA, and they'll provide mentors. Mentors will have an expanded role with this group. Their collaboration with CASA also allows for a drop-in center where youth can come for assistance at any time. PCOE will offer additional groups targeting specific goals or challenges, additional education, and PCOE is also committed to serve difficult-to-serve youth and will ensure consistent attempts at engagement for those that have not been willing to engage with the program. There will also be group field trips to local colleges, trade schools, and cultural landmarks, and these enhancements to the program are intended to develop an ILP culture and offer additional and create additional opportunities for extended foster youth to engage, support, and create connections beyond their individual connections with an ILP case manager. The organizational purpose of the Children's System of Care is to provide every single eligible foster youth with the independent living skills, training, and opportunities to assist in that transition to a successful independent adulthood. The recommendation of an award to PCOE supports this purpose. And the award to PCOE at this time, coupled with the existing contract extension with Unity Care through June 30th of 2020, will allow for a smooth transition for the youth in the current program, as the PCOE team will be able to coordinate and work with Unity Care and the clients in the program during this time. At this time, I would like to ask Twyla Abrahamson to share with your board some additional comments about the ILP program, following which we will both be available to answer any questions your board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Good morning, Chair Gore, Supervisors Mr. Leopold and Ms. Schwab. Twyla Abrahamson here, your Director for the Children's System of Care. The California Department of Social Services and Welfare and Institution Code requires all counties to be responsible for administering an independent living program for youth, as you've heard already, including extended foster youth who are making the transition from foster care to independence. Mr. Wood just reported to you about each of the RFPs and the processes, as well as the recommendation for action to continue to deliver these services. But I would like to take a few minutes to give your board an historical perspective on these services and also weave in some comments to concerns raised when youth who have received or who were currently receiving services from an ILP contractor hired by Unity Care addressed your board on February 25th. So ILP services may come from a variety of sources, including the county, a contractor, care providers, group homes, resource family agencies, as Mr. Wood noted, court-appointed special advocates, and other organizations. Historically, Placer County social workers have retained some required ILP services and has contracted out many others. Unity Care was not the first contractor to provide ILP services. Before Unity Care, Whole Person Learning provided these services for many years, starting in at least 1997. In 2008, more than a decade later, an RFP was conducted, which Mr. Wood talked about. Whole Person Learning did not receive the highest scores, and instead, a new provider to Placer County, Unity Care, received the contract. Whole Person Learning ensured that the youth were transitioned to the new provider, Unity Care, and to their new ILP coordinators, despite being disappointed in not receiving the contract. Unity Care was delivering services in 2013 when the department's prior Children's System of Care Director, Richard Connect, brought an item before your board to end the contract with Unity Care and award a new contract to Placer County Office of Education for enhanced ILP services. Your board exercised its decision-making authority and did not agree to end the contract with Unity Care. And instead, Mr. Connect and the CEO of Unity Care, Mr. Andre Chapman, delegated the responsibility to improve these outcomes and add in the same ILP services that PCOE was offering. The manager for Placer County at that time, Mr. Tom Lind, and Ms. Shane Libby, Regional Director for Unity Care, worked together for well over a year to ensure these additions were met. Mr. Chapman, in his remarks on February 25th, tied the current recommendation before you today to the situation in the 2013 Board of Supervisors meeting in which your board decided to continue the services with Unity Care. Mr. Chapman noted that he believed that it was the desire of Placer County to, quote, strengthen the Department of PCOE and bring the services in-house. If you recall my earlier remarks, it is entirely permissible to perform ILP services by the county, but we did not choose to do so now or since that time. And to provide clarity, PCOE is not actually a department or county entity but governed by the Board of Supervisors. So there is no decision to move these services in-house. And in fact, I could have made that decision at any time the contract with Unity Care was up for renewal and chosen to do that very thing, move the services in-house. But we have not done so. Procurement at our contracts unit, however, reminds divisions of our obligation as government officials and good stewards of public tax dollars to periodically hold RFPs and to ensure we have the most efficient, most effective, and highest quality services, which is what we have done. Mr. Wood explained that the spring RFP was canceled due to a major change in provider staffing. He did not, however, state how surprising this was to our program personnel, in that we had such limited notice from Ms. Libby about her departure.
I assume Unity Care was surprised as well, and I believe they should understand why this change directly led to the cancellation of the RFP. Ms. Libby was the common element in Unity Care for the past 6 years. The ILP program has had turnover, but we were always confident in their ability to hire good ILP workers and sustain services, as Ms. Libby herself would step in and deliver services and assure continuity as needed. With this abrupt announcement and with contract negotiations not even started, we began to have concerns about awarding a new contract. Mr. Chapman did reach out to the department for the first time in 6 years and assured us he was sending an interim program director to Placer during this transition and would himself be coming up for monthly meetings. We did think that was a good effort. However, the program director, Ms. Thomas, while skilled and knowledgeable, was only to be with us on a limited basis. That was a concern. And the final concern was the newness of the staff, which was noted by Mr. Wood when he was talking about the RFP and the RFP submission. And without Ms. Libby to train and guide the new staff, and in the absence of any other communication from Unity Care besides Ms. Libby in the past 6 years, that did not seem like a prudent decision. Mr. Chapman agreed to a 6-month extension. He and several other managers and myself met with supervisors in our department monthly to go over performance and technical issues. The interim director, Ms. Thomas, departed in August from the Placer ILP program. We did not receive a new program manager until mid-October, Ms. Pamela Carter, who spoke on February 25th as well. We continued meeting with this group as the new RFP was released and processed. However, I became concerned that there might be a gap in services for our youth, so I spoke to Mr. Chapman about a 3-month extension to the 6-month contract, and he agreed to that. I was not part of the spring RFP panel, nor was part of the fall RFP panel or decision-making, although by that time I was aware that there was more than one agency who had submitted a proposal. I had no idea who would become the highest respondent, and that it would actually not be Unity Care. Mr. Chapman noted in his comments on February 25th that he did submit a formal appeal to the decision when it was made public, but that he did not have much information on what he could appeal. Mr. Wood can and has addressed this. Unity Care received denial of the appeal based on any legal or procedural issues. Mr. Wood also discussed the second RFP and the 5 respondents. Since this matter is now before your board, we can note that even if PCOE were not the winning respondents, Unity Care was actually third in line, with another provider being ranked second based on the panel scores. Prior to the February 25th public comments, Placer County also sent a letter to Unity Care CFO to exercise our option to extend the contract for one more 3-month period due to the appeal process, and it had slowed the contract negotiations. It was unclear whether this would be resolved, so the contract adjustment was also sent. While not ideal and certainly very unsettling, as Mr. Chapman remarked on February 25th, it was a method to ensure payment of services, but more importantly, continuing care for our youth depending on the direction this matter by your board. And speaking of the youth here, possibly both today, but definitely from February 25th, I would like to commend them all for using their voices and standing up for their current ILP coordinators. I found their stories to be compelling and inspiring. From working on getting their high school diplomas to working on their resumes and getting their first job to getting their driver's licenses and learning how to budget, they have managed to complete these tasks with the assistance of their ILP workers. They noted that their workers care for them and did not give up on them when others did. I am pleased, however, to report that from the youth stories and their words, it is clear that Placer County has been offering very good ILP services through Unity Care. And if you read from Unity Care's contract and scope of services, you would know that they are doing exactly what are required services: education, training, and employment to support a foster youth's successful transition to adulthood. We are pleased to report that Unity Care managed to negotiate a very difficult agency transition with their loss of their long-term director and with very new staff. And they've done so providing services, if you have heard, that are positive for the youth. But the bottom line is that we as county officials have been entrusted with public taxpayer dollars, which require us to periodically place services out for RFP and to see what occurs. In this case, the recommendation is for a change in providers. I hope this has been a helpful explanation of the first RFP and what we believe were compelling reasons to rescind the letter of intent, and with the second RFP process completed with 5 total respondents, and Unity Care being ranked at not number 1 or number 2, but at number 3, that you will take the recommended action detailed at the beginning of this discussion. However, we understand that this is your board's decision and stand ready to follow your direction in this matter. So we are requesting that your board take the action previously stated by Mr. Wood, and both of us are here to happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Twyla and Brett. All right. It looks like a question from Supervisor Holmes.
Thank you, Dr. Abrahamson. I've noticed in the staff report that PCOE collaborates with the court-appointed special advocates, also with the commercial sexual exploitation of children for training. Also, I'm aware that they also provide educational services to Konia foster homes. Do they still do that? I think they still do.
Educational services to foster youth, that is absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions from board members, I will open this up to the public, and I'm sure we've got some calls online, so go ahead, Megan.
Go ahead and transfer in the first caller, please. Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, this is Gail Garbalino Mojica, Placer County Superintendent of Schools.
Good morning, Gail.
Morning. Thank you for having me here this morning. I am excited to be here to support the Placer County Health and Human Services staff recommendation to enter into a partnership with the Placer County Office of Education for the Independent Living Program. PCOE and Placer County HHS have more than a 30-year history of collaboration for children and families. We are one of the longest collaborations in California and currently the model statewide for new programs and legislation that requires such a unique collaboration. PCOE is strongly positioned to deliver high-quality independent living program services to our local foster youth. As a county office, we bring unique qualifications, experience, and access to the education community where foster youth are attending schools. PCOE is respected in the local community, regionally, statewide, and nationally as a leader in our systems to help children and youth learn, develop skills, and thrive into adulthood. With change, I know that there is at times angst, but I can assure you that PCOE's proposal only increases the type of services that we'll be providing to these students. We are a trusted partner that can deliver life skills, outreach and enrichment services, group mental health services, individual case management services, job readiness services, and housing resources. Though this grant does not change where these students currently reside, whether it be with foster parents, group homes, agency homes, or college dorms, PCOE is uniquely positioned to provide a litany of housing resources to these students. Today, you will hear from staff in my Prevention Services Department, Mike Lombardo and Alicia Rossum, to provide more details about the program, and from a community-based organization on how they plan to collaborate with PCOE to increase the number and the quality of the services for these students. This is an exciting time for us all, and I'm grateful that our two entities can come together and better serve the students in Placer County. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Did you have any of those folks on the line with you right now?
They called in separately.
Okay, super. Thank you. We will take the next call.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next call, please. Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
Philip Williams.
Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Chair Gore and Placer County Supervisors. And a special thank you to Supervisor Euler for your years of service on the Placer County Supervisor Board. My name is Philip Williams. I'm Deputy Superintendent at the Placer County Office of Education. Thank you again for allowing us the opportunity to provide youth in Placer County the needed services through the Independent Living Program. At PCOE, we have a long history of believing all children can learn and thrive in Placer County. We are particularly excited about the ILP program that breaks together the valuable supports of the children's system of care, education, and our community-based agencies to support youth facing a number of obstacles. We are fortunate in Placer County to have a robust network of supports and partnerships, and it's our intent to integrate these partnerships into the ILP program for our youth. You heard about the partnership with Child Advocates of Placer County, the corner-pointed special advocates for foster youth. This is just one example of how PCOE will braid such services as government, education, and community-based agencies together to form an improved set of services for our youth. Other examples include how PCOE is able to leverage our relationship with the Department of Rehabilitation to bring employment opportunities to youth. Our plan further brings together partnerships with the Latino Leadership Council, the Sierra Native Alliance, the Youth Empowerment Support, the YES program, and other culturally responsive agencies allowing for culturally appropriate services for youth. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to enhance and deepen the collaboration in Placer County for the foster youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. We'll move to the next call.
Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
Michael Lombard.
Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you to the board and everybody who's put so much effort into this RFP and the award and the contract. My name is Mike Lombardo. As I stated, I'm Executive Director with Placer County Office of Education Prevention Supports and Services Program. The Placer County Office of Education, as you've heard, has a 30-year history of supporting children throughout Placer County with our partners from school districts and community-based agencies. Throughout this history, PCOE has been a core member in working collaboratively with system of care management, integrated teams, community providers, directly, and guidance systems that serve our youth. PCOE has a unique blend of experience across prevention, early intervention, and intensive levels of service to youth and families throughout Placer County. PCOE is set apart in our role as a County Office of Education and has unique qualifications that address the education and larger community where foster youth are living and attending schools. One example of this collaboration is our partnership with the State Department of Rehabilitation. With the Department of Rehabilitation, we provide employment services through two programs called Transition Partnership Plus and Workability Employment Programs. These programs are held in collaboration with the Department of Rehabilitation, local employers, school districts, and are designed to support youth experience barriers that hinder their transition to employment and post-secondary education. Moreover, the role of supporting transitioning youth requires a leader who will not with education, community, county agencies, community social services, cultural organizations, and local employers, but also experienced in the methodologies of adult and student and youth learning. PCOE is a well-respected local leader in the community, regionally, statewide, and nationally, and we look forward to providing these services in Placer County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. The next caller, please.
Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hi. Please state your name for the record.
Andre Chapman.
Good morning, Andre.
Good morning, Andre. Can we have you turn the? It sounds like you are watching the meeting in the background. Can we have you turn that off?
Sure.
Thank you.
Great, and we're ready when you are.
Okay.
Go ahead, Andre.
Okay. Good afternoon, Honorable Board of Supervisors. This is Andre Chapman with Unity Care. First of all, let me say thank you for the opportunity of speaking, and particularly during this time of major crisis that we are undertaking. So thank you for your leadership. I did want to just follow up on some of the comments I heard earlier
and just respond. First, let me say this. We have enjoyed working with Placer County. We've been a strong partner. We have a really great relationship with the leadership, and we value that. I do want to say that when we were notified that this decision was to not award us, that happened in June when we were awarded in April, and so we were not afforded the opportunity to appeal. If I had the opportunity to appeal, we absolutely would have, and maybe wouldn't have been in this situation. But I think more importantly, what's missing here is the voice of the youth. And what is concerning for us is now that we have finally received the scoring, there were things in the scoring and the ranking information that we received last week that gave us really concern regarding the process and the transparency of it and the evaluator scores. And I just want to highlight just a few right now. There was one section where Unity Care scored the worst in this section, where we scored 118 out of 175 points. That section was titled Experience and Qualifications of the Proposed Staff. Unity Care scored second to last with 63 out of 100 possible points. As the only provider with current and past experience in providing LLP services, it was very difficult to understand how could Unity Care score at the bottom in both these sections where the highest possible points were available. Last month, you had the privilege of hearing directly from our youth, as well as received additional video messages from the youth about their experiences with Unity Care and the supports that they receive. These young adults spoke from their hearts, and they conveyed how much of an impact our team has had in their lives. And we have a very awesome team of culturally competent, college-educated case managers that clearly was not reflected in the scoring. There's where we had an opportunity to pause and truly understand why this information was not afforded to us within the 5-day window that we could have appealed and pointed out the discrepancies that we saw in the actual ranking and the scoring of the process. There was no justification for the scoring of each of these areas, as the scores were not objectively tied to the experience, qualifications, or even the proposal content of a provider that has solely held the IOP contract since 2008. The other thing that's concerning for us, and I'm unapologetic when it comes to services for these young folks. You know, the model that PCOE is proposing is very similar to what they had proposed back in 2013, that the board voted down. They're moving ILP services from a community-based individual case management model to a school-based 8-to-5 model. The proposal talks about using CASA workers, and we've had a long-time partnership with CASA for over 25 years. CASA are volunteers, and they're leaning on CASA to do the transportation for over 100 foster youth to get them to the once-a-month workshops. They're proposing that individual case management is only at the as-needed basis. You know, so there's a litany of concerns that we have about the model, because at a time where services should not be reduced individually for the young people, they are being reduced at a time where it's also costing the county more money. And so what I've detailed in a letter that I sent forward was a comparison between our model and the model that's proposed by PCOE. And this is very similar to, again, what we experienced in 2013 when the board took the drastic step and stuck up for the voice of the young folks. And so what we're asking for the board today is to take the concerns that you heard from the young people that came forward. We've had no corrective actions since we started this program. We have an outstanding working relationship with the community, the county social workers, probation officers, and you heard it yourselves from the young people that we serve. So is this a time to make a drastic change in the impact that we'll have on the young adults that we serve? We have over 30 young people in our housing program. We're concerned with how are they going to get support in the evenings and weekends, where today our IOP workers are out there supporting them. So to move from a community-based model to a school-based model, removing the services from the community, I think is not in the right or best interest of the young people that we work with. So what we're asking you today is to do what the board did back in 2013 and to vote no on the department's recommendation of contracting with PCOE, so that the program will stay as a community-based program, providing the quality services we've been providing with the quality staff that we have on board that have been providing those quality services under the outstanding leadership of a phenomenal director. I think that this sets a bad precedence in the county, and any community provider should be concerned that if there's ever a transition of a staff person who was the director never did direct services. The director was directing the program. That you would be at risk of your contract being rescinded. And I think that's not the position that the board nor the department will want to have as a future concern for any community-based organization coming forward. So we truly appreciate the courage of the Board of Supervisors in not only hearing our concerns, but also standing up in honor of the hundreds of foster youth that have oftentimes are overlooked and voiceless. So thank you for the time of speaking. And again, we look forward to the decision to stand up for the youth that we're serving.
Thank you, Andre. Appreciate your comments. The next public comment, please.
Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
Alicia Rosem.
Okay, Alyssa.
Good morning. My name is Alicia Rosem, and I'm the Foster Youth Services Coordinator at PCOE. The PCOE team who will be leading this program have expertise in youth development, trauma-informed care, behavior modification, employment services, and program implementation. Highlights of our ILP include delivery of monthly life skills workshops on topics ranging from money management to healthy relationships. PCOE will ensure that workshops are informative, entertaining, and interesting to youth by including them in the workshop development and using interactive games and assessment of skills. PCOE will also convene a multidisciplinary curriculum committee that includes both current and former foster youth who are employed with our agency to advise workshop content and ensure its relevance. Number 2, individual case management services delivered by 3 full-time PCOE staff provided at least monthly and based on the needs of the youth. These services will be provided in the community and in the youth's natural environment and in partnership with other adults in their support network. Case management will also focus on intensive services for youth at risk of losing their home or school placement. Interruptions in the home placement or school environment are substantial barriers to achieving independence. Number 3, trauma-informed care, including trauma-sensitive case management, group services, and trauma awareness training for caregivers and educators. It is important to note that while many children are vulnerable to adverse childhood experiences, youth in foster care disproportionately face complex trauma and high levels of toxic stress. Number 4, engaging hard-to-reach youth through a variety of strategies and with the guidance of and collaboration with the youth social worker and care team. Any youth who are not currently participating in ILP will be contacted quarterly to remind them of their eligibility and the benefits of their participation. And number 5, strong communication with youth assigned social worker and care team. Consistent communication with the youth and their support network is essential to helping them achieve their independent living goals. In summary, PCOE is prepared to deliver high-quality, trauma-informed, youth-centered independent living services to all eligible Placer County foster youth.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
Don Kleinfelder.
Thank you, Don. Go ahead.
I'm Don Kleinfelder. I'm the Executive Director for Child Advocates of Placer County, and I was calling in to speak about the ILP program. I think one thing that we've seen, I've been running the program here for almost 14 years now, and our interaction with ILP I think it was something that we were always thinking that could be stronger. So I've also been a CASA volunteer for 5 different youth who've had different participation levels within ILP, and I think what was missing for me was that time where where I knew what the child was working on, what the youth was working on, and trying to encourage that person or that youth to have, let's work together on building these life skills. And when this opportunity came up, it became very apparent that PCOE is somebody who we collaborate with all the time anyway, and it became apparent that this would be a great opportunity for us to find a way to make sure that our CASA volunteers who are meeting weekly with these youth also understand what the youth are doing through ILP, so that once the ILP, the youth comes in once a month, they have that ILP training, and then if you've dealt with a 15-year-old boy before, they forget about it till the next time they go on for the next meeting. So the idea was we're already meeting with the youth once a week. We build these relationships with the youth. Let's know what they're learning in ILP, and when we have a card time, when I'm meeting with the youth every week, let's just review what we're going through. And so it just felt like a great partnership to have the ILP program embedded in my office, where the staff, my staff and the ILP staff could coordinate, where volunteers could coordinate, where we could definitely build a stronger relationship with the youth and make sure that they are getting the skills and the resources that they need to succeed once they age out into adulthood.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Next caller, please. Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Pam Carter. I'm the Regional Director with Unity Care.
Thank you, Pam. Go ahead, please.
I'm sorry, I was turning the microphone down and I just shrank my comment. Hold on just a moment, please.
Not a problem.
Okay. I want to thank you for listening to our youth and young adults who presented their fears about losing the support that they have for Unity Care, providing case management and independent living skills. We did receive Friday the scoring results of our ILP, RFP, and the department recommendation for PCOE that will be before you today. We did prepare a response and we did send that out to you. And we're calling in today because the current COVID-19 crisis, it didn't allow our youth to come, and they're very disappointed. Our ILP case managers are considered essential employees during this period and are continuing to meet the youth and the young adults to help during this time. And some of the youth and young adults had the opportunity to come together and express their thoughts, and they sent you a YouTube link, which we sent to you also. But part of my comments today is that we have 3 houses of ILP youth and young adults who are self-sheltering in place, and they're being supported by our ILP team. And they have participated last week in the Children's Bureau and Think of Us virtual town hall for older foster youth, which was a great opportunity for these youth to have a voice in the current COVID-19 rapidly changing environment and how it's affecting them. My ILP team, and myself included, I have over 20 years of HSHA experience. We have, my former experience is in El Dorado County and San Joaquin County, and I've moved over here to Placer County last September. And I love this county and I love my team. So what I want you to know is that we really do work closely with Koinonia, with all the agencies that Twyla has mentioned, and we do the same work as PCOE. Is this a case of them versus us? No, but this is a case that we do something different. We do this same work. We do it personally. We do it in the field, but we also are the ones that spend the weekend in a hotel room with a kid who has a fever now, and we've just now called public health, and she's on her way to the hospital, and we're checking to see if she's been exposed. We're the ones that are been exposed also because we're the ones that got to keep her safe. So my point is that during this transition and during this crisis, We're the people that are going to be on the front lines dealing with our youth, keeping them calm. And we're the ones that are offering that sense of family, that continued sense of that personalization. I have worked as a court worker for CPS. I've been a manager for CPS. I've been all through the ranks of APS. What I'm telling you is these case managers are those sense of family for these youth. They are meeting these kids where they're at. Out of over 110 youth and young adults, we only have 33 of these kids that are in high school. So PCOE saying they're going to meet them in school is only going to meet over 1/3 of these kids. The rest of them, 12 of them, are in college. Our monthly meetings are held at Sierra College. This meeting place has been a great opportunity to expose the kids to this college campus. It invigorates them. It gives them hope. The rest of the kids are either working for a job, have a job, or in process of getting a job, which is the whole purpose of what ILP does. So I thank you for listening to me today. I hope that you support our program. And anyway, we will continue to be supporting our youth who continue to live in the houses that we have in this county to support foster youth who are homeless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pam. Next caller, please.
Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
Amy Williams.
Go ahead, Amy.
Hi, I'm the program manager for Unity Care's housing program, and I wish we could have been there in person. We would have been there in droves. But I wanted to speak a little bit about the numerous benefits of working with ILP in-house with Unity Care. Particularly with agencies growing so large and being so impacted, it really is wonderful to have a smaller agency be able to meet every individualized need that each youth has, being able to meet them outside of normal business hours, wherever they're located. And specifically with the housing program, you know, as everybody probably knows, this job is very exciting at times. And when we have multiple things going on, we've always been able to contact ILP and have almost immediate responses. When we needed support with a client, if a client was not really connecting with their housing case manager, but really just needed different support, they will call their ILP worker, who they care very much about and have great relationships with. And just being able to have that flexibility and really meet the youth where they're at, wherever they want to meet, whatever goals they want to work on. It's been the collaboration and communication with ILP and the housing program is just unparalleled. And I would also say amongst the social workers through Placer County, the CSOC social workers, it's an absolutely amazing relationship that we've built with the particular social workers and the youth. In addition to that, the wonderful events that ILP has put on, Independent City, Summer of Learning, workshops. I know that a lot of you got to hear the wonderful stories from our youth, and I can't tell you the amount of times that they've referred to Unity Care as being their family. And an integral part of that is the ILP team. When we're all together and we have like a group event, their eyes just light up to see all of their support through Unity Care in one place. So I just wanted to give that perspective. They also assist in being a direct pipeline to housing support, and it speeds up the process so you don't have to wait on larger organizations to process their housing referral. So I just wanted to add that kind of insight and just encourage you guys to see all the wonderful benefits that Unity Care has provided for the youth, and just to remember those individual stories and how anxiety producing it is for the youth to be told that they will now have yet another provider when so many people come in and out of their lives on a regular basis. So that's That's my input. I appreciate you hearing me.
Thank you very much, Amy. Appreciate it. Next caller, please.
Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
Hollingsworth.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Nicole Hollingsworth, and I'm the current program director for the Independent Living Program to Unity Care. I am lucky enough to supervise a fantastic team of case managers that have been providing youth-driven and focused services, meeting youth where they're at, and basically supporting the youth with whatever goals they have identified. These youth have entrusted my team in obtaining goals that they never thought were possible, such as going to college, getting their driver's license, obtaining employment, things that they never dreamed would happen for them. I would also like to say, in addition to what Pam was saying, that we also service quantity of youth and CSEC population pretty extensively. Our data has proven the ongoing effectiveness of our services regardless of who has been the director, whether it was Shane Libby or Candace Thomas and now Pamela Carter. The data continues to improve. Summer of Learning was based on events that the youth chose they wanted to participate in. We took it to one of our ILP workshops and gave them ideas, and they ran with it, and we created the whole summer of events around what the youth wanted to do. Several of these things were first-time things for these youth, including Alcatraz, Yosemite, touring, Empire Mines. I just feel like the services that have been provided have been profound. The youth have entrusted this program on exponential levels, built relationships that they've never had, and I really hope that that's all taken into place in regards to whatever the outcome is. And if the services are transferred to PCOE, I hope that they entrust their staff to allow these same sort of relationships to build, because these relationships are what are causing all of this positive impact on these youth lives. And thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Next caller, please.
No more callers.
No more calls. All right. Thank you very much for the public comment. We really appreciate it. I will close public comment and bring this back to the board for further discussion. Supervisor Holmes?
Yes, I have a question for Dr. Abrahamson or Mike Lombardo. I don't know who can answer it. The question is, according to the staff report, there'll be an extension for Unity Care through June 30th, and that'll give us time to have a transition to PCOE takes over. How will that transition take place?
Supervisor, this is Twyla Abrahamson reporting to you. We have done these type of transitions in the past. What normally occurs is that we will have the new provider and the old provider meet directly with our assistants. We usually discuss the needs of each and every person that is being transferred. We will make a transition plan for each and every one of them, and then we consider a clinical continuity of care and also what independent goals each and every person has, and that is how we would normally effect the transfer. It is not something that would happen on one day. You have a new provider. It's something that we would have then several months to be able to effectuate a very warm handoff.
So you wouldn't consider, as one of the speakers said, that this is a drastic change? It would be more of an enhancement, as far as I can see, for a stronger relationship and a collaborative relationship with PCOE and the youth. Is that a good understanding of the issue?
I think that's exactly a very good understanding of the issue.
No other comments. Just a couple of comments. I really appreciate, first of all, we heard from the staff from Unity Care and actually the youth who came to public comment a couple of weeks ago. And I'm really grateful that we have a program like the ILP program that provides services to our foster youth, to our young people. And obviously, Unity Care has done a very good job. I do I think it's important that we as a board provide opportunity for competitive bid, which is what happened here in this case. And there's an opportunity to have another provider provide more enhanced services. And this is always, I think, difficult when you've got a good provider. But as a county, I think it's really important that we use our taxpayer dollars wisely and we make sure that we're providing the best services that we can for the residents with the dollars that we have. And it looks like, and according to an evaluation panel that wasn't just a children's system of care, it was actually an evaluation panel of 5 folks, only one HHS person, and then other staff looking at the proposals. And they recommended PCOE that has enhanced services, and I think that they will be able to enhance the current services. And I know it's a challenge for young people to make some changes, but we're going to still provide really good services, social workers, opportunities for the youth to work together and meet together and get the services that you all need. And I just want to share that those transitions are challenging, but at the same time, our staff are going to work really well together if we move forward with this. So with that, any other comments? Or somebody want to make a motion?
Well,
Cindy, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I did want to make a couple comments. First off, I completely agree with your comments, Supervisor Gore. It was so compelling to have the testimony of the youth that were here and how much of a difference Unity Care has been making in their lives. I am absolutely convinced we can have the same sort of impact on their lives moving forward with PCOE and the programs there. But I understand the transition is hard, and I look to the leaders and those care providers at Unity, along with our PCOE staff, to make that transition as seamless as possible for those youth. And I really want those youth to know, well, you heard them. I was very moved by their testimony on behalf of what the program has been doing for them. And I agree with you. It sounds as if we're going to have enhanced services for them and actually more opportunities. And it could be, and I did ask this as well, that some of those staff, the caseload goes. And so they will need to recruit more staff, and some of those staff could even be hired over. So they may end up with a transition of some of those same staff. So I really encourage us to use this as a learning opportunity for those youth as well. As we're all experiencing, we can never anticipate what happens in our lives and the changes that we have to make in response to things that are outside of our control, but make the very best of this opportunity. So I agree. And I'm happy then to make that motion.
I want to take it individually.
Okay. Each one individually?
All right, then I'll go ahead. Another comments, I'll have the clerk we'll read the first item.
Okay.
Cancel request for proposal number 100041 for independent living program services consistent with section 6.1H of the procurement policy.
So moved.
Second by Holmes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Approve the award of competitive request for proposal number 20011 for independent living program services to the Placer County Office of Education in the amount of $735,690 for a 2-year period, and authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to determine the start date. The contract is funded entirely by a dedicated state allocation and other realignment funds with no county general funds required.
So a move to approval. Sorry, move approval.
All right, motion by Gustafson, second by Holmes. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Approve the option to renew the resulting contract for 2 additional 2-year renewal periods by the Director of Health and Human Services.
Second.
Motion by Holmes, second by Gustafson. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to sign the agreement with Risk Management and County Council concurrence, and to sign subsequent amendments up to a total of $73,500 consistent with the current agreement subject matter and scope of work with Risk Management and County Council concurrence.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Holmes, second by Gustafson. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Appreciate your efforts on this. We will move to item 5A, which is the 2019 Annual Housing Element Implementation Progress Report, and we are calling Shauna Purvines as we speak.
Okay, Shauna, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, good morning. Shauna Purvines from the Community Development Resources Agency. The item before you today is the 2019 Annual Housing Element Implementation Progress Report. It is a report required by state law to be submitted on or before April 1st of each year to the California Department of Housing and Community Development, as well as the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. The report summarizes the implementation of the county's housing element, which has a current planning cycle of 2013 through 2021, and includes information on most notable accomplishments over the past year, along with an update on the county's efforts to meet its regional housing needs allocation. The action requested is to receive any public comments and authorize staff to file the report to the California Department of Housing and Community Development and the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. With that, I'll stop and see if you have any questions.
Any questions from board members? All right, then, sorry. Very short report, but we read through the staff report, so thank you, Shauna. With that, we can have somebody move to receive the comments.
I will.
Wait. Oh, public comment. Thank you. All right, public comment on this item.
There are no callers on
There are no callers on this item, and just a reminder for folks to call in the upcoming items so that we can move this board meeting along. With that, I'll close public comment, and we have a motion by Gustafson
to authorize the filing of this report.
All right, and a second by Holmes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries 5-0. Or did you say aye?
Of course.
Yes, you did. All right, 5-0. Thank you very much. We will move to item 5B, which is the amendment of the 2019 California Building Standards Code, Swimming Pool Safety Amendment, Letter of Map Revision Amendment. And she's getting Tim Wagner on the line.
Hey, Tim, it's Megan. Make sure you have any live pieces of video turned off and I'll take it on. Are you there, Tim? Can you hear us?
I am. Good morning.
Good morning, Tim. Thank you for being here. Take it away.
Sure. Well, good morning, Chair Gore and members of the board. Again, Tim Wegner here with the Community Development Resource Agency to introduce two items related to County Code Chapter 15. The first order of business is related to swimming pool and spa safety. Unfortunately, inadvertently, during the adoption of the 2019 California Building Code this past January, staff recommended an additional pool and spa safety feature above those required by the county traditionally, and one additional element above the state's requirements. And for this reason, staff is here today to correct the inadvertent requirement for the additional feature. But while doing so, I thought it was a good time to just update your board on the current pool safety provisions in Placer County. Today, the state requires the selection of 2 of the 7 drowning prevention features when constructing or installing a pool or spa, and the applicant can select either an enclosure, a removable mesh fence, an approved safety cover, an exit alarm on the home, self-closing, self-latching doors on the home, a motion alarm in the pool, or other devices as may be approved by a testing laboratory. So as mentioned, with the recent adoption of the building code, staff inadvertently offered the enclosure as an option when it should have been a mandatory requirement. You should know the county has mandatorily required an enclosure around each swimming pool or spa for more than 40 years. I did my research back to 1974 code adoption and found this to be true back then. The enclosure can either be solely around the pool, the house can be part of the enclosure, or the home can be totally within the enclosure if the enclosure is a boundary line fence. The applicant would then choose one additional feature in addition to the mandatory enclosure, and by taking this action, we'll be sure to meet the state's minimum requirements and align with historical county safety practices. So really that's all I have for your board today related to County Code 1504-320 of the Swimming Pool and Spa Safety Act, and can answer any questions before introducing the next item.
Thank you, Tim. Looks like no questions from board members, so we'll open this up to the public. Any comments from the public?
No callers holding.
No callers holding. All right. Then we will go ahead and close public comment. And do I have a motion from the board?
Second.
Okay, a motion by Holmes, second by Wygant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Tim. And we'll move to item 6A.
Oh, no, Tim has a,
no, we
has
have
a secondary item on that.
Sorry, 2 items, you're right. So move to the second item, which is...
Well, thank you again, Chair Gore.
Go ahead.
Tim Wagner again. The second item is an introduction of a modification to County Code 1504070 that's specifically related to the floodplain management. As part of the National Flood Insurance Program, the California Department of Water Resources, DWR as we know, periodically performs community assistance visits to review the county's floodplain management regulations and enforcement practices. DWR conducted a community assistance visit for Placer County in June of 2019, and in November of 2019, DWR issued a findings letter identifying revisions to the county's floodplain prevention regulations needed to fully comply with the current National Flood Insurance Program regulations. The proposed ordinance today amends Placer County Code Article 15.52 and 1504, flood damage prevention regulations as recommended by DWR to comply with current NFIP regulations. It's important you know floodplain management is handled by the county's Public Works Department, and DPW has a subsequent board item today to further support these necessary changes to county code to comply with DWR's requests. It is important the county has federally backed flood insurance policies for homeowners, and in order to do so, our programs must meet these minimum requirements. The item introduced today is one step in realigning our programs to ensure they meet the minimum requirements. And with that said, I'm available to answer any questions on this item.
Thank you, Tim. Looks like there are no questions from board members.
No callers.
Open it up to the public, and there are no callers lined up, so we'll bring it back to the board.
Second.
A motion by Holmes, second by Wygant. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, now thank you, Tim, and we will adjourn as the Placer County Board of Supervisors and convene as the Placer County Successor Agency. And we'll move to item 6A, which is the Swiss Mart property, 8793 and 8797 North Lake Boulevard, Kings Beach, purchase and sale agreement. We're waiting to get staff on the line.
Hi, Janet, it's Megan. Make sure you turn all the audio and video of the meeting off. I'm going to put you on speakerphone. Okay, Janet, go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead, Janet. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, members of the board. Chair Gore. I assume you can all hear me. Okay. Good. My name is Janet Triplett,
Senior Project Manager, Real Estate Services. I'm here today to present the purchase and sale agreement for the Swissmart property. Action requested is adopt a resolution to approve a purchase and sale agreement for the sale of the Swissmart property consisting of 2 vacant parcels totaling 0.3 acres located at 8793 and 8797 North Lake Boulevard in Kings Beach, and authorize the successor agency officer or designee to execute the purchase and sale agreement and take all necessary actions to complete the sale of the property, including extending the agreement period for up to 1 year. Execution of the purchase and sale agreement would be contingent upon approval by the Placer County Consolidated Oversight Board. The purchase and sale agreement terms are purchase price $306,000, initial deposit $3,060 due upon a fully executed agreement, second deposit $6,120 due after the contingency period has ended, contingency period 210 days after a fully executed purchase and sale agreement. Also included in this agreement is an option to purchase by county if buyer does not receive project approval within 1 year of close of escrow and certificate of occupancy within 2 years of receiving project approval. Next steps, present purchase and sale agreement to Placer County Consolidated Oversight Board for approval. If Placer County Consolidated Oversight Board approves the purchase and sale agreement, the agreement will be executed by the successor agency or designee. When property closes escrow, proceeds from the sale will be distributed to the affected taxing entities in proportion to each entity's share of the tax base as required by the long-range property management plan. Any questions?
All right, looks like there are no questions from board members. We'll open this item up to the public.
There are no callers on the line.
And we have no callers on the line. So we will go ahead and close public comment.
I'll propose a motion to adopt a resolution to approve the purchase and sale agreement for the sale of the Swissmart property.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Gustafson, second by Wygant.
And that motion, just clarifying, includes the rest of the requests stated in the staff report.
Thank you. Everything following that and the action requested. Thank you.
Second concurs.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then Janet will move on to, hold on, we will adjourn now as the Placer County Successor Agency and reconvene as the Placer County Board of Supervisors.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm sorry, now that we've reconvened as the Board of Supervisors, I have an item that I need to step away briefly for. If I don't make it back before we adjourn to closed session, I just wanted to call out that I will be recusing myself from an item that is on the closed session agenda, item 12A, I believe it is.
Yes.
Item 12A, I will be recusing myself as that does have a direct impact on somebody with which I am directly related. And so in the event I don't make it back before you guys break for closed session, I just wanted that on the record, but I do need to step out right now.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Euler. All right, so now we'll move to item 7A, which is the Swissmart property purchase and sale agreement. Go ahead, Janet.
Okay, I'm here today. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. I'm here today to request your board adopt a resolution to accept the option to purchase provision for the Swissmart property consisting of 2 vacant parcels totaling 0.3 acres located at 8793 and 8797 North Lake Boulevard in Kings Beach, California. Authorize the Director of Facilities Management or designee to execute the memorandum of option to purchase included in a purchase and sale agreement. County acceptance of the option to purchase provision is contingent upon successor agency board approval and consolidated oversight board approval of the purchase and sale agreement for the Swiss Mart property.
All right, thank you. Is that it, Janet?
That's it. Thank
Okay,
you.
super. Thank you very much. Bring it back to the board.
With that, I'll make a motion.
Oh, we need to open it up to the public.
No callers on
And
the line.
no callers on the line. So now, go ahead. You can make
I'll
a
make
comment.
a motion to adopt the resolution as
Read into the record by Janet Triplett.
All right. Motion by Gustafson, second by Wygant. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with Supervisor Euler temporarily absent. And now we will move to item 8A, which is Public Works amendments to Placer County Code Article 15.52 Flood Damage Prevention Regulations. And we'll be hearing from Mary Keller, I believe.
Okay, Mary, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, Chairman and members of the board. I hope everyone is well. This is Mary Keller, Senior Engineer, Department of Public Works, Stormwater, and Floodplain Program. I'm here today to introduce, I guess I'm not really there, but introduce an ordinance amending Placer County Code, Chapter 15, Article 15.52, the Flood Damage Prevention Regulation, and waive the oral reading. As you heard from Tim Wagner earlier on item 5B, the county has been a participant in the FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, National Flood Insurance Program since 1982. As a participant of the flood insurance program, the county residents are eligible for federal-backed flood insurance. Currently, there are 869 active policies in the county. There are approximately 330 structures located in the floodplain in the county, with 71% of those carrying flood insurance. Flood insurance required for any of the federal backed mortgages. Also, as a participant in the National Flood Insurance Program, the county is required to enforce certain floodplain regulations. As Tim mentioned earlier, the California Department of Water Resources periodically performs item 5B, the county has been a participant in the FEMA the visit was conducted in June 2019 with the findings issued in November 2019. I'm happy to say that the report had a favorable review for the county floodplain program. The only item that required some clarification on the county flood damage prevention ordinance to ensure clarity of standards and conformance with the National Flood Insurance Program. The required changes are in both Chapter 15, Article 15.52, and the one that you had already heard earlier in Article 15.4. For Article 15.52, the revisions include that a letter of map revision needs to provide FEMA with technical and scientific data identifying the base flood elevation changes that will occur to the floodplain from a development, that building permits shall not be issued on any impacted parcels based on the conditional letter of map revision, but only once the final letter of map revision is approved by FEMA. This does not limit building permits on parcels that are not impacted. It also requires that FEMA be notified within 6 months of any boundary changes so the mapping can be kept current, and we have done It additionally clarifies the lowest floor requirements in a Zone AO. There's some minor corrections, such as correcting the current address for the Department of Public Works, clarifying definitions, and deleting outdated references. There is no cost to the county of any changes. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate the report. Looks like no comments or questions from board members. Nobody has lined up for the public, so we'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. May we have a motion?
Move approval. Second.
All right. Motion by Whitehand and a second by Holmes. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? A motion carries 4-0 with Euler absent. All right, item 8B, which is the Summer 2019 Hot Mix Asphalt Overlay Project, authorize additive alternate. And we're calling in Kevin Tabor to get on the line.
Okay, Kevin, it's Megan. Okay. All right, I'm going to put this speaker. Can you hear us, Kevin?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Take it away.
Great. Okay. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. This is Kevin Tabor with Public Works Engineering Manager. This next item, we're asking you to authorize the Director of Public Works to award an additive alternate to Tyker Construction in an amount not to exceed $1 million. This is additive alternate work that was bid last year and put in place depending on the amount of RMRA funding we received. We did receive enough to complete this work. Towards the not until September did we determine how much was available, and due to some construction delays, weather, et cetera, Tyker's not able to complete this work until this spring. So with your approval and the issuance of the resulting change order, we'll be out there paving more roads and spending the RMRA funding hopefully as soon as next month. So with that, I'll turn it over to your board for questions and go from there.
Thank you, Kevin. Looks like there are no questions from the board and any public comment lined up.
No callers lined
No
up.
comments, so terrific. Nice to see that we'll get some work done on Baseline and Barton Roads. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Motion by Holmes, second by Wygant. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Euler temporary absent. And we'll move to item 9A, which is Hot Mix Asphalt and Winter Patch. Calmat Company does business as Vulcan Materials Company, Don Robertson Sand and Gravel Inc., and Tykert, etc. I'm not going to read the entire name.
Okay, Brett, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Brett, take it away.
All right, thank you. Good morning.
Hey, Brett, tough to hear you.
My
Hold on
name
a
is Brett Wood.
second.
I'm your purchasing manager, and I'm here today to request your board's approval of a renewal of competitively awarded contracts with Calmat Company, doing business as Vulcan Materials Company of Roseville in Grass Valley, and Don Robinson Sand and Gravel Inc. of Auburn, and a negotiated contract with Tygert & Sons, doing business as Tygert Aggregates of Truckee, California, for the purchase of hot mix asphalt and winter patch products as needed in the maximum aggregate amount of $1,070,000 for the period of April 1st of 2020 through March 31st of 2021. These are funded by the Department of Public Works Road Maintenance Division's final budget in fiscal year 2019-20 and the requested budget for fiscal year 2020 to 2021. We're also requesting your board approve the option to renew the resulting contracts in the aggregate not to exceed amount of $1,070,000 for 2 additional 1-year terms consistent with the Placer County procurement policy, authorize amendments up to an aggregate total of $100,000 consistent with the procurement policy, and authorize the purchasing manager to sign all required documents and transfer funds between contracts as needed. As history for your board, this was last presented in May of 2019, where we awarded a competitive bid to these companies and a negotiated contract to Tygert & Sons. This product is for hot mix asphalt and winter patch products as needed to support road maintenance projects throughout the county. The current contracts expire on March 31st of 2020. This has been returned to your board this year because at our last year's agenda item, we were requesting about $935,000, but we did not have change order authority, which meant that we could not approve more than the $935,000. This year there is additional funding available, so we're requesting a higher dollar amount and hence asking for the change order authority as well. The vendors have agreed to either renew at the existing rates or with less than a 1% increase. And with that, we would be happy to take any questions your board may have.
Thank you, Brett. Looks like there are no questions from board members, and we'll open it to the public. Any comments from the public?
No callers lined up.
All right, we will move it back, and can we take all these items at once?
No, we should take these separately.
All right. Let's see. He just read all of them, didn't he? All right. So how about this? As read by staff, if someone will make a motion for 9A1.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Motion by Wygant, second by Gustafson. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And item 9A2.
Second.
All right. Holmes and Gustafson, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. 9A3.
Move approval.
Second.
Wygant and Holmes, all those in favor?
And Gustafson.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I mean Gustafson. All those in favor? Aye. And those opposed? All right, motion carries 4-0. I'm helping Megan out because she needs to know who says this, right? Because there's only one of her up there. And item 9A4.
Second.
Holmes and Wygant, all those in favor? Aye. And opposed? All right, motion carries 4-0. Thank you very much, Brett. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And as Megan calls the next staff member, we're moving to item 10A, which is agreement for substance use treatment services. Did we remove 10A? No. No.
Hi, Amy. It's Megan. Go ahead and make sure that any video that you're watching is turned off, and I'll bring you on. Okay, Amy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello. Can
Great.
you hear me?
Thank you, Amy. Take it away.
All right. Good morning, Supervisor Gore and distinguished members of the board. I am Amy Ellis, the Director of the Adult System of Care, and I'm here to present a new contract to expand options for medication-assisted treatment for Placer County residents who work in Sacramento County. The action that I'm requesting of you is to approve an agreement with BART, B-A-A-R-T, Behavioral Health Services Incorporated, for substance use treatment services from July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2021 in an amount not to exceed $1,365,687, and authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to sign the agreement with Risk Management and County Council concurrence, and sign subsequent amendments up to $100,000 consistent with each agreement's subject matter and scope of work with Risk Management and County Council concurrence. So effective medication-assisted treatment, which is typically methadone, buprenorphine, disulfiram, and naloxone, is the most appropriate treatment for opiate addiction and others. A critical element of the success of treatment is that it is accessible and available, especially when they need to come every day for dosing, as with a clinic like BART. As you know, Placer County went live with the Drug Medi-Cal organized delivery system on November 1st, 2018, and this shift required us to contract with each facility that our residents use. It changed the way providers are paid for services from the county of the service where they received it to county of responsibility. So in order for us to continue allowing Placer County residents who work near this location to access services, we are required to enter into this contract. It will allow Placer County to meet its mandated obligations under the DHCS contract of having an adequate network of providers to address the substance use treatment needs of Placer County residents, and allow eligible residents to maintain treatment with an established provider. Funding for these mandated services is comprised 100% federal and state sources. The amounts are included and will be appropriately budgeted. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Amy. It looks like there are no questions from board members. And any comments from the public?
There's no callers in the queue.
No callers in the queue, so we'll bring it back to the board.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Wygant, second by Gustafson. All those in favor? Aye. And those opposed, and motion carries 4-0. All right, thank you very much. We will move to item 10B, Placer County Mental Health Services Act Plan Annual Update and Expenditure Plan. Take it away, Amy.
All right, good morning again. I'm Amy Ellis, Director of the Adult System of Care, and I have with me in my office Sue Compton, who is our new MHSA coordinator for Placer County, so she'll hear if there's any specific questions that come up. We're here to present the MHSA annual update. Every year we come back to you as a requirement. Today there are two actions being requested. The first is to adopt the County Mental Health Service Act Plan annual update for fiscal year 2019 through 2020. And the second to approve the expenditure plan for fiscal year 2019 through 2020 in the amount of $21,976,760. So in 2005, Placer County received funding and implemented services under the state-funded Mental Health Services Act. Placer County has used this state funding to expand and deliver a variety of behavioral health services. It has been managed so that these services can remain stable even during economic downturns. The funds support county-operated programs, contracted programs, and necessary administrative support for management and reporting. The MHSA consists of 5 components, each that has a different goal. The Board of Supervisors is required to approve annual updates and their expenditure plans. The annual update reports on fiscal year 2017-18 data, addresses activities of fiscal year 2018-19, and proposes changes for 2019-20 fiscal year. So I will present some highlights of what's been funded in fiscal year 19-20. So full service partnerships are one of the major things funded by MHSA. They are 24 hours, 7-day-a-week intensive wraparound services with excellent results in decreasing homelessness, hospitalizations, and incarceration. These programs do whatever it takes for our clients to succeed and did that for 500 residents, 150 children, and 350 adults. Services such as mental health outreach, crisis services, education to families, children and adults, peer services, housing supports, and targeted interventions to the Latino and Native American communities were provided to 3,200 residents who were served at their most vulnerable moments in a culturally appropriate manner. Various MHSA-funded housing programs provided housing to 47 individuals. Other MHSA-funded projects are in various stages of development and will eventually provide more than 63 beds. Workforce education and training provides county contracted agencies, consumers, and family members about $350,000 worth of mental health career advancement, education, and training to develop skills to improve service delivery. Capital Facilities and Technology provides capital funding for MHSA programs and funding to implement an electronic medical record program. Expand clinical space in the DeWitt Clinic, feasibility and site selection for the Tahoe HHS building, and helped with the purchase of the Kirby Hills ASOC facility in Roseville. The expected expenditure is approximately $3 million this year. Prevention and early intervention funds allow community-based contractors to provide services aimed at reducing needs for intensive mental health services. About $2.8 million is spent annually for these programs. Innovation funds partially pay for our whole person care program that serves the homeless. A public hearing was held by the Mental Health, Alcohol, and Drug Advisory Board on February 24th. We received some comments from one commenter related to how our data is reported and some typographical errors that were caught, which were fixed and are addressed with the commenter. Their feedback was very helpful and appreciated. The Mental Health Services Act revenues of $21,976,760 and the accompanying expenditures have been included in the department's fiscal year 19-20 budget. No county general funds are required. Any questions?
Thank you, Amy. It looks like we've got no questions. And
have to open it up for everybody, not just...
Do we have any public comment in the queue, Megan?
Not for this item.
Okay. I just want to say, Amy, thank you so much for the work that you and your team do. Huge effort, a lot of work. You provide great services to our community. And I just want to compliment you and your team and all the HHS staff.
Thank you so much.
So with that, we can bring this back to the board and move the item.
Second.
All right, motion by Holmes, second by Wygant. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. And then we'll move to item.
Thank you, Amy.
The next item, which is what number I do not know. C, not 10C, which is Medi-Cal Administrative Activities Agreement with the California Department of Health Care Services, and we're calling right now.
Okay, Joe, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Joe. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. Good early afternoon, Board of Supervisors, CEO, Council, and Clerk of the Board. Joe Arsenis here, your Assistant Director of the Public Health Division, and my ask of you today is to adopt a resolution to approve a revenue agreement with the California Department of Healthcare Services for Medi-Cal administrative activities in the amount not to exceed $12 million for the term July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023, and authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to sign an agreement with Risk Management and County Council concurrence, and to sign subsequent amendments up to $100,000 consistent with the agreement's subject matter and scope of work with Risk Management and County Council concurrence. A little background, the County Medi-Cal Administrative Activities, or CMA program, became a Medi-Cal program on January 1st, 1995, pursuant to the Welfare and Institutions Code, Section 14132.47. Local government agencies participating in the CMA program are eligible to receive federal reimbursement for the cost of performing administrative activities that directly support efforts to identify and enroll potential eligible individuals into Medi-Cal. Through the CMA program, individual county agencies promote access to health care for clients in the county public health system, minimize health care costs and long-term health care needs for at-risk populations, and coordinate client health care needs with other health care providers. CMA activities include, but are not limited to, conducting Medi-Cal outreach, facilitating Medi-Cal eligibility determinations, Medi-Cal program planning, and Medi-Cal contract administration. The fiscal impact, the CMA agreement identifies up to $12 million of potential reimbursement funding available to Placer County Health and Human Services, again for fiscal year 2020 to 23. There are no county general fund impacts for fiscal year 2020 to 23. Any questions?
Thank you, Joe. It looks like no questions from board members. Anyone in the public queue comment line?
No callers in the queue.
All right, thank you very much. We'll bring it back to the board. The motion has already been read.
Second.
All right, motion by Holmes, second by Wygant. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. And we'll move to item 10D, which is permanent supportive housing, contracts with the Gathering Inn and AMI Housing. We're calling our friends.
Make sure that you have any live feeds meeting turned off. Okay, Jeff, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jeff Smith, and I am the Program Manager for the Whole Person Care Program and Public Health. And the actions requested this morning are approve an amendment with the Gathering Inn to increase funding by $775,000 for a total contract not to exceed $2,845,462 from October 1, 2019 through September 30, 2022, and to authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to sign the amendment with Risk Management and County Council concurrence, and and to sign subsequent amendments up to $100,000 consistent with the agreement's subject matter and scope of work with risk management and county council concurrence. 2, to approve an amendment with AMI Housing to increase funding by $775,000 for a total contract not to exceed $2,845,462 from October 1, 2019 through September 30, 2022, and authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to sign the amendment with risk management and county council concurrence, and to sign subsequent amendments up to $100,000 consistent with the agreement's subject matter and scope of work with risk management and county council concurrence. 3, approve a budget revision in the amount of $1,318,475.78 to include the revenue from the one-time housing funds for whole person care pilots. 4, approve a budget revision in the amount of $1,550,000 for the expenditures. So in October 2019, the board approved an award to AMI Housing and to TGI to have each of them get 12 additional permanent supportive housing units and to buy the homes to have those units. Since that time, we had an additional $1.3 million come in for one-time funding from the governor's budget. We have received that money, and the best way to spend that is to have AMI and TGI increase permanent supportive housing, and that's what we have a plan to do, to add $775,000 to each contract to purchase the homes and to run the permanent supportive housing units. For the fiscal impact, there are no net county costs for this contract amendment. The total increase of $1,550,000 is covered by the $1,318,475.78 in one-time housing funds and by $231,524.22 in whole person care housing pool funding. The additional revenue of $1,318,475.78 is included in the budget by approval of the budget revision. Additionally, the expenditure amount of $1,550,000 is included in the budget by approval of the other budget revision.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that, Jeff. Supervisor Holmes, you have a question?
Yeah, just a question and comment. I had the opportunity to visit the home in Rockland that the Gathering Inn purchased, 7-bedroom home, housing 6 individuals. Has the Gathering Inn and AMI Housing purchased any other homes since that action we took in the end of last year?
You know what? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Maybe if I move closer. So I had the opportunity to visit the home in Rockland that the Gathering Inn purchased, a 7-bedroom home that's housing 6 individuals. Did you get that part?
Yes.
Okay.
Just barely, though. Yes.
So has the Gathering Inn and AMI Housing been able to purchase any homes since the action we took towards the end of last year?
Yeah, so AMI has closed on 2 6-bedroom homes. The Gathering Inn is actually going to close tomorrow on another 6-bedroom home, and then this allows us to purchase another 5-plus bedroom home for each agency.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, looks like no other questions from board members. Any public comment in the queue? And seeing none, we will close public comment and move it back. And I think we have to take the last 2 as roll calls. So how about if we take items 10D, 1, and 2 as one motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Holmes, second by Wygant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And then item 10D3, approve a budget revision in the amount of $1,318,000 $1,475.85.
Move approval.
Second.
A roll call, please.
Wygant?
Yes.
Holmes?
Yes.
Euler absent. Gustafson?
Yes.
Gore?
Yes, thank you. And then we'll take roll call for item 4 of this. May I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, motion by Holmes, second by Wygant.
Wygant?
Yes.
Holmes?
Yes.
Euler absent. Gustafson?
Yes.
Gore?
Yes. Great. Thank you very much, Jeff. Appreciate the work, and thanks
you.
to AMI and the Gathering In for their good work.
Thank you.
And we will move to item 11A, which is compliance with California state minimum wage laws, adjustment to salary grade U10. And we're getting Kate Sampson on the line.
Hi, Kate. It's Megan. Go ahead and Okay, Kate, you're live.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. This is Kate Sampson with your Human Resources Department. Today I'm requesting of you introduction of an ordinance amending your schedule of classifications and compensation ordinance in order to comply with California state minimum wage laws. Effective January 1st, 2020, California established a new minimum wage of $13 per hour. And then on January 1st, 2021, the minimum wage will increase to $14 per hour. As a charter county, Placer County was previously not subject to state minimum wage laws. However, as a result of a recent court decision, the state minimum wage now applies. Of Placer County's current salary grades, salary grade U10 is the only one that falls below the newly established minimum wage requirement. It's associated currently with 2 extra help job classifications, including elections aide and student intern. Therefore, HR is recommending that salary grade U10 be increased to the new state minimum of $13 per hour for calendar year 2020 and to $14 per hour for calendar year 2021 in order to be compliant with the state statute. And I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Kate. Any questions from board members on this item? And do we have any calls in the queue? Nope. So we will close public comment, move it back to the board.
I'll move approval of the item to introduce this ordinance.
Second.
All right, motion by Gustafson, second by Wygant. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, welcome back. With that, we will move to closed session, and go ahead, Karen.
The board will now adjourn to closed session to consider 12A, Public Employment, Director, Child Support Services. I want to point out for the record that Supervisor Euler has already recused himself from this item. We will then consider 12B, 2 items of existing litigation. We will then consider item 12C, Public Employment, District Attorney interviews.
Thank you very much. With that, thank you to the public and everyone and staff's patience as we've done the meeting telephonically. It actually worked not too bad, but we'll get better with time.
Remarkably well run, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well,
Madam
thank you,
Chair.
everyone. We'll move to closed session, and I guess we're moving. All right. All right. We'll turn this off. Thank you.
The board met in closed session to consider One item of public employment, the Director of Child Support Services. For the record, Supervisor Eula recused himself and was not in the session for this item. The next item that was considered was existing litigation on Cole versus County. The board heard a report and provided direction. On In Re Melinda Mailer, the board heard a report and authorized settlement. The board then conducted interviews under Public Employment District Attorney. This concludes the report out.
All right, and with that, we are adjourned to our next special meeting, which is on Thursday, March 26th. Thank you, everyone.